Hello and welcome to episode 300 and something of the Destiny Community Podcast, the one where Mylan explains exactly what Veil is. Mylan, take it away.
You're up.
I think first we need to check in about Mylan. How's the kindergarten mission going? Did you find drugs on the kids? Are they up to no good? What's going on?
Look, we found a lot of drugs at the kindergarten. We probably shouldn't have said that in the first 30 seconds of the YouTube video. Goodbye, demonetization.
By kids, we mean consenting adult people who are doing legal drugs. Yeah,
correct. Yes, legal in their state. Correct. Anyway, I confiscated all of that, sold it in the black market, and bought a new house, and here we are. So I was keeping that away from him. That's what I was doing. The internet went down because I was moving house before Lightfall. I was like, please, because I had to get the internet changed. I was like,
right.
Hadn't even tended the internet at this place. I'm like, seriously, this is my job. Please go through. And it like went through. The wires work. The internet works. It's actually better than my old place. I dropped zero frames over a 12-hour stream.
Oh,
just
wow.
Boom, steady upload. So, yeah, here I am.
I told my wife if we ever move, I'm going to check where they have fiber optic internet.
For sure.
And I'm not moving there unless they have that there first.
Yeah.
Yeah, we said no to a house that the internet was just real bad. Can't do it.
Can't do it.
Can't
work.
The internet's pretty bad in Australia. It's pretty notorious because of a whole bunch of politics with upgrading the infrastructure, and we didn't really do it properly. So there were only like certain suburbs that we can move into that would have the speed and the stability for me to live stream and upload a YouTube video without being 2 days ahead. Like when I first started YouTube, I had to be 2 days ahead to try to be like current, and then that's why one of the reasons I did law. But it didn't matter when I like
timeless content.
It didn't matter. Yeah. Anyway, new place. So if there's a bit of echo, a bit of baby crying in the background, that's just haven't put up the soundproofing yet.
No problem.
All good.
So Lightfall launched.
Lightfall's here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The internet is excited, I would say.
Boisterous.
The internet is typing a lot.
It's typing.
Especially on Reddit.
Caps lock engaged. How do you guys want to kick this off? No?
I've heard bad things about over there, but I was like, I ain't even gonna bother going over there.
There's no point. Especially if you're having fun. What are you gonna do? Just read it and be like, oh, well, that's a bummer.
Right. How do you guys want to kick this off? Do you want to start with the story? Do you want to start with the gameplay? Do you want to start with like your first experiences going through the new campaign?
Yeah, I don't know. We could do initial impressions. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Let's do first impressions and mash it all together. Really.
Okay.
We'll just go off that. I mean, let's start with the gameplay. I think that's easy to sort of compare, like the difficulty level and like going through the campaign and what your thoughts on that were.
I thought the campaign, aside from the story, was actually really fun. I really enjoyed.
I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Strand. I really enjoyed how they gave it to you in a powered up fashion, so that every time you got Strand, I felt like I was super powered up, and I was like, okay, here we go, like time to go like full on action mode, and just like learning how to use it and like zipping around with the. The grapple hook. I found all that to be incredibly fun.
Yeah.
We should clarify who did solo legendary and who did in a team and who did like normal.
I did solo legendary.
Ooh, I did duo legendary. Me and one guy.
I did team legendary.
Oh, unbelievable.
Okay.
I know.
Yeah.
I did solo basic.
Have a nice day.
Okay. It will be interesting to see the difference because you
may agree with some things I'm gonna say about some things, maybe, Mylan. So the Legendary campaign, I enjoyed the gameplay of it. There was one mission that I was like, this just feels like it's not created very well. And that was Big Minotaur, Spinning Wall, encounter. I don't think it was great. I think there were a couple problems. One, the checkpoint starts all the way at the beginning of the mission, where you have to like go through the grapple thingy again.
Yep.
And the other thing is that there's snipers up top, but there's ads on the floor, and then if he stomps you, he sets you on fire. So it's like just spinning around. I found that in a lot of these situations where they made missions like that, I was just throwing either with a horde or anarchy at enemies and not really engaging with them as much. So yeah, there's headlong is what it's called. Yeah, headlong. It seems to be the spot that everyone gets to, and they're like, "This is stupid."
That's
I
so
didn't
interesting.
hate it. I didn't hate it, but I don't think it's a super well designed encounter.
That's interesting because, like, for me, playing it with a team on Legendary, that was one of the funnest encounters. Like that one, and then any boss fight really was cool to see the dynamics of flowing around the map and one person taking out the snipers, one person taking out things on the ground. But I could see how, as a solo experience, that would be really frustrating. But kind of learning the strand abilities and you working together as a team, it was like difficult, but not impossible. It was more like we were just having fun and learning the rotation and making you move around the map. And same thing with the final boss. I felt the same way about that. And I think we I two-manned half of it, I should say, and then I three-manned the first half. So it was like a slightly different experience, but throughout it was fun just learning all the different encounters. They all felt like a really good level of difficulty. So it was interesting to hear your solo experience.
Yeah. For me, solo was pretty much a cakewalk and then a massive difficulty spike on the merry-go-round on what's it called on was it Headlong? And then Callus was similar, and it was almost like Strand was a bit baity because I just kept like, it's so fun swinging, but you end up just you're just running away the whole time, and it's like
there was obviously I use it more to like attack the enemies. I go in for that like melee punch. It takes massive
the melee
damage
punch
off
is
of stuff,
so good,
right? So that's often how I'm using it, is like to get in close, hit the melee punch, and then I'll use like a backup shotgun if there's any leftovers.
Trench barrel shotties are real fun with that because you zip in, get the punch, and just blah blah. That's real fun.
I got the new shotgun from Neo Muno with trench barrel on it, and it has Envious Assassin. So when you're shooting a bunch of enemies, I ended up basically TLDR. I had 20 bullets in my shotgun. So,
oh my gosh.
Pretty good.
Love that. Yeah, the movement tech for the gameplay, I will say the gameplay was so fun to learn. Like all the different things you can do, creating the tangles and then chucking them, grappling them, and following them where like, all that stuff that you learn along the way just made that whole experience extremely dynamic. I loved the Callus fight at the end. I thought that was a really great way to have a final showdown with him.
I was a little disappointed about Callus fight after years and years of build up, and like he finally gets taken by the witness, and his big superpower is a gun.
A worm gun.
But then he turns into a gladiator.
Yeah.
My thing with it is we've played Callus in, his robot form was more intimidating with 6 people than us going in by ourselves and defeating it. Like there's this total like I almost wish he would have been the raid boss instead of just the story boss, or if he was the story boss, that it would have been something a little more epic, because it felt, for me as a team of 2, it was one of the easier encounters. We just learned to rotate and we beat him, I think, without even wiping once. It was just like kind of just whatever. And even on the legendary difficulty, and it was like, oh, that was it. Like I even said after it was over, I was like, because a little thing pops up when you're done and you go back to Neomuna, the main base, and it says part 3, and I was like, oh good, it's not over yet, there's something else. I was like, no, that is it, that's the end.
Well, to be fair, Callus's strength is his leadership. It's his assets. It's the things he controls. And even the fact that, we're fighting him in a full bodily form, we have to understand, like, he just got that body. Like, this is not a fighter. This is not a guy. He's been a raisin for years, and he was just gifted a body, in his cocoon state by the witness. So it's not like he's some hardened warrior. His strength has always been in his army, his leadership, his influence, and all that stuff. So I thought it was I enjoyed it because we fought through all of that stuff. Was Callus, the huge waves of armies on the front step there before we got to him.
I like
all of that is Callus's strength. incarnate. And so I thought that when you look at the mission as a whole, I really appreciated that final showdown with Callus.
That's a cool way to think about it. Yeah.
It was hard solo. Like I was there for 2.5 hours doing a solo. It was, and you sort of had to have the right equipment on. Like, I mean, Watts was watching, he was like, use Witherhoard basically, because
that was
essentially
that was the best stream I've ever watched in my life. I've never laughed so hard and almost died from panic in my life. Mine's just swinging around. He's like going under the bridge. He's like, oh God.
Man, and because you got to take the tormentors out as well, and there was definitely like a sequence to get it right. Like I was just trying to nuke him at first, and then there were 2 tormentors out, and it was too hard to deal with. And then I got some advice from chat, which was like just lower his health, get 1 tormentor out, deal with that, get the second one out, deal with that, then go to his like final stand phase. And the thing is, if you end up just running away, which is what I was in a lot of, just like swinging around and like dealing with all the ads on the outside, his shields just come back. And dealing with the shields, you sort of needed the right weapon on, and Witherhoard was the one for me to take his shields down so I actually do DPS. But until I had that combo on, it was like it was pretty tough.
Yeah, there was so I had the issue where I was running Void Hunter with Falcon, so the weapon I'm using, like everything I'm using is Void, and if I'm not on Void, my weapon kind of sucks. So when I switched to Strand, I had to go and find a helmet and a chest piece to infuse so I could put on Assassin's Cowl, because Assassin's Cowl is really good with Hunter Strand. So in the final fight, I just swung around and I would shoot a Witherhoard at him, shoot a rocket at him, swing around, do the same thing again. If I needed health, I would just grapple melee someone, get health back, go invisible. And I just kept doing that until he was dead. I didn't touch any of the tormentors. I didn't touch any ads. I was just swinging and Witherhoarding and dropping a rocket. Then it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But again, it's not very like interactive with the fight, right? I'm barely looking at him. I don't even know what he's doing. He's just standing there. I see him sometimes. I throw stuff at him.
Yeah.
Should we?
That was the issue with this. That was the issue with like the Strand, and wasn't just like what said before with the checkpoints. It's like you get access to Strand, but you don't have the build for Strand. You don't have the right fragments and aspects on. You don't have your exotic set yet, and so I feel like the encounters were made for you to be running at 100%. And I wanted to use Strand because that room is made for Strand. Like there's just it is so fun to use it, but you feel like you're only running at 50% because you don't really have a build going yet, and you're just learning the encounter, and it can be pretty challenging by yourself as well. So I think that's probably where I found the difficulty spikes with the Strand missions when you didn't have a build. And I don't think the design was as good as Witch Queen. I felt like when I played Solo Legendary and Witch Queen, I felt like it was almost classic Halo with a curated encounter. Like there were so many encounters, like, oh dude, like I can see what they want you to do here and how to solve this and how to defeat these enemies. Whereas in Lightfall, I sort of felt like it was mostly pretty easy with these Strand difficulty spikes, which I chose to do because I wanted to use Strand, but didn't quite have the build for it.
What you were saying with the Strand stuff, that was my biggest delight and biggest frustration coming out of the entire thing was I wanted to use Strand like that just because I was looking forward to using it. And they said going into it, we don't want to make the mistake of Lightfall or of Beyond Light. We want to give you Strand to use. At least that's what I got out of all the pre-material that came out. And so me and many others were looking forward to going in and using Strand, not from the get-go, but pretty soon into it. So I didn't even really have a build going into it, so that was fine when it switched you over to the Strand stuff, and I was like, yeah, here we go, like let's use the Strand stuff. All the grapple's awesome, Suspend's awesome, all this stuff is so cool and having so much fun, and then you're taken out of it and you're like, oh, I wanted to like figure out that build, and you're teased throughout the entire campaign with little moments where you use Strand, and it's so cool when you're doing it. But I never felt like I started to master it until the campaign was over, because then I could spend time with it and then I could make a build out of it. And I wanted to do that during the campaign, but it just wouldn't let me. And that was what was frustrating, is because I wanted to do that, but then it was frustrating on the opposite side of people who were like, I have this build going into Lightfall. I want to use my Void build. I want to use my Arc build. And they couldn't do that either. So it was a lose-lose either way. And that was really frustrating because of how good Strand was and how much fun it was to use when I had it.
I played on basic mode, and I didn't have any of these problems. I was able to just kind of play through. I definitely reset a couple of times because I wasn't, because I died. But for the most part, I was just able to kind of play through the story in a pretty casual space. And whenever they gave me the Strand ability, I was pretty excited about it. I did start to get worried, though. Probably 3/4 through the campaign, I'm like, wait a minute. Is Strand going to be a real subclass, or are they just going to put points all over Destiny where you're just going to go pick it up? Well, luckily, that wasn't the case. I was like, oh, man, like, feels like I should have this by now.
Yeah.
But, they didn't do that, thank God. I got scared, though.
It is a real subclass.
Yeah, it's a real subclass.
With aspects and fragments. Yeah.
One of the other joys of playing it with 3 people versus 1 is a lot of stuff that you saw in the trailers just kind of happened by accident. Like the moment where you see somebody grapple somebody's other thing that they threw, that happened frequently. And the first time that it was one of the encounters where you're like jumping between different rocks and you're fighting the Vex, and me and my 2 teammates, we all grappled each other, like the guy in front that was slung his ball, and it was like pure accident. It just happened. And we were like, no way, we're attached. And we were just going nuts because it just fluidly happened. And that was the moment I was like, this is incredible. Like, even if I'm not enjoying these certain other parts of it, like these moments are so wild. And but it also, like I mentioned earlier, made it more frustrating because I was like, I want to do it all the time, but I can't.
What did you guys think of Neomuna as a location?
Mixed feelings. I think mixed feelings. So I think it's a beautiful space. And I think especially some of the specific rooms you go into, you can really see the love that they put into designing some of those spaces. And so I definitely appreciated that. But I felt like the scope of this city didn't get actualized. I also wish it was a little more vertical, with the existence of Strand and all these grappling points. I just wanted it to feel like a real upward arena, and it didn't really feel like that to me. And I know that it's explained via the lore, where the citizens of the city are, but man, it just kind of felt empty. And
it didn't just feel empty; it didn't feel like anybody had ever lived in it. You know what I mean? It felt so clean,
that's also true.
And new.
It
felt
very
like
clean.
It felt like a city that had just been built.
Yeah, it's That's the thing, is I did get surprised when I finally had unlocked Strand and I had the full subclass. I'm on Hunter, so I have 2 grapples, and I try to go a different route to get to where I'm going. I wanted to go on the rooftops. Then I get there and it's like, oh, you can't go on top of that.
Yeah, the skybox is capped pretty low.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
And when we see these trailers leading up to this, where they're jumping out of skyscrapers, pulling a 180 and you know what I mean? Like, that got me hyped. I was like, this is going to be a new kind of Destiny experience where they're going to approach these arenas in a much more vertical way. I felt let down. Maybe that's on me for expecting it otherwise.
No, I think we never saw that part in the game, right? So that was something they made for the trailer or something that got cut, but that's not an experience that we even had in the game. So I get
it's deceiving too, because you jump in from that super high skyscraper, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And then you, like Watts, you were saying, like you try and go over that little like curved roof area, and it's like, oh no, you got to go down. You got to go down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like maybe Bungie hasn't caught up with the grapple yet and how they design those environments. It's sort of like maybe there'll be a bit of a delay before skyboxes. I don't know anything about making games and coding, but it seems like the environment was still suited for a place that didn't have grapple. Even though, and the thing is, the grapple mechanics are incredibly sleek. Like on mouse and keyboard anyway, like I feel like I have so much control, momentum, and the ways you can combine. The fact that you can like attach to each other, you can attach to objects, you can attach to like sparrows. Like it's pretty impressive. And I think that's maybe why the environment felt a bit let down, that you have this tool that seems so good, but didn't really fit that environment yet.
You know what's actually really fun that I didn't even think you could do? But if you're holding a tangle, if your teammate aims it right, they can grapple onto the tangle you're holding. So then they can they can jump and let go, and then they can grapple again to the tangle. I was like, what is going on? Yeah, that was great. There's so many cool things you can do with it.
Yeah. Did you see the trust circle? Have you seen that?
Yes.
Oh yes, where they're just all flying.
You've got 3 people,
each other.
and you all attach onto the person like to your left, and you just basically keep spinning around in the air.
I love it.
That's what I do at the end of my hunter super, because I'm currently running the shackle grenade, so I don't have grapple unless I'm in a super. So when I'm getting to the end of the super, I just grapple something and spin around in a circle until I fall off.
That's cool. You get grapple in your super. I didn't realize if you weren't running it, it just swaps over. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good.
I've been running Titan just for because I wanted to use as many suspend things as I could, and so I'm excited to see all you have to say about Hunter suspend. Yeah. But for the Titan, you run the exotic that shoots the 3 suspend waves that go out, and then you can run Armamentarium and run double suspend grenades, and there's just so many options for suspending, and then you run all the fragments that make it to where you suspend stuff when you blow up tangles, or we're getting it in a second or something. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe tonight we'll get that.
Yeah.
And suspend is like super strong. It feels
so strong.
Very powerful.
We did the 1830 story mission, and no one stood a chance. And I'm like, 1789, I think. So I'm like 40 under ish. And nothing stood a chance, because when I'm running double dodge, so I have 2 suspends with 6 coyote having the double dodge. I have double grenades just because strand hunters have double grenades. And then when I shoot a tangle with a strand weapon, it blows up and suspends everything. So like I never don't have access to suspend.
Awesome.
You don't even need to bring champion mods anymore. You don't need them. Just suspend them.
Oh yeah, you destroyed champions too.
Crazy.
Yeah,
that quality of life change of having what you can disable with champions on your screen is so nice. We needed something like that, and I feel like I want it to go a step further, where it's like, hey, for new players, this is the ways that you get those things to happen, because the icons show up, but they don't tell you. I think how. Maybe they do. I don't know. I haven't played around with it enough, but just that quality of life of seeing like, hey, you can do these things. Like, oh, okay, cool, awesome.
In the menu, if you hover over the left-hand side, where like stats are on the right, and the left-hand side has the triangle, square, circle. If you go over that, it will tell you like what stasis, what strand, what
good.
Does each of them. Yeah, so it will say like strand, suspend will do unstops, whatever.
That's perfect.
Yeah. But what about story though? We haven't talked about the story yet. How do you guys feel about the narrative, the way the story was delivered?
Not so great, TV. Not so great.
Yeah.
You go on.
I mean,
I was.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Look, I still want to get my thoughts right. I'm going to release a video. I wanted to get through all the post-campaign stuff first to see what was said in that, and I haven't read all the other stuff yet either. But I do think that my gut reaction is similar disappointment to going and seeing a movie and having to be continued. And there is a really fine line between getting some sort of conclusion and satisfaction and then hyping people up for the next thing. And I feel like if you had that on a scale from being satisfied with the conclusion and building hype for the next expansion, we'll probably way down the end of building hype for the next expansion. And I think just defeating Callus didn't feel like enough of a conclusion, because the entire campaign was pretty much centered on the Veil, and we knew nothing about the Veil, and then we get to it and we still didn't learn anything about the Veil. So I didn't feel like Callus met that need of like, I'm satisfied with this conclusion and now I'm hyped for the next thing. It sort of just felt like pretty classic Bungie, to be honest. And it's like we're 8 years in, and now it's another year, what it seems like. And I think that was my gut reaction. I want to find some better words for it, but it felt like a too strong in the to be continued side.
Anytime that the Witness or Callus was on the screen, I was transfixed and I was having a great time. they spent so much time just talking about Strand or talking about the Veil, and it just felt like they were like side stories. It felt like they were a filler, but they never got to like the main story, right? It's like, you know how like you're watching like a series that has like a continuity of a story through the series, but they also have like kind of like a monster of the week.
Episodic.
Yeah. It felt like we were watching a Monster of the Week episode when we were waiting for like the season finale, like the big, like here we are, like we're finally gonna find some answers, and like big stuff happened, but with no explanation. Like we saw the witness do the big shot, but we got no real explanation on what just happened.
And then they're just like, the Traveler's gone.
Yeah, the Traveler's
dead. And tell me what's happening.
And am I crazy, or did Zavala smile during that conversation?
Okay, the whole facial animations for Ikora and Zavala at the end there were strange. They both were like,
did not fit. And like Callus dies, and then like Nimrod comes around on his surfboard, and he wants to like fist bump his daughter, who maybe is having some like mixed emotions here. Like, how do you not like read that room?
Like Nimbus.
And then my character does fist bump. I'm like, I'm not fist bumping this asshole.
See, that's one part that I felt really differently on then, because I played the whole campaign through before looking. I afterwards I was like, oh, Reddit's really upset at Nimbus, and all these people really don't like them. And then but throughout my journey, the entire time I was like, oh, Nimbus is awesome. They're actually talking about my character like I've done things, like I am a cool person. And no one else I feel like that I encounter in Destiny is like, oh, the Guardians are look at the way you slayed these people. Most of the new characters that are introduced, like Eris Drifter, not new, but like, you know, people that you interact with on a daily basis are like, yeah, you did that, but like, can you really? I just never feel like I'm hyped up by them. And Nimbus did a great job of hyping me up as I played throughout the campaign. And I know that the mood and the tone was off-putting to a lot of people, but as I was playing it, I was actually saying out loud to my fire team, I was like, oh, that's awesome that they think this, that they're actually like recognizing what I just did back there. Because I felt like that was cool. And they're like, this is awesome. The way you used all the Strand stuff. I was like, that was awesome. Thank you.
My one complaint with Nimbus for me was that, like, when we first show up at Neomuna and we see the Cloud Striders fly overhead on their boards, and then immediately we get to see Nimbus in action, protecting Osiris. And I thought, cool, like, I want to fight side by side with Nimbus and Rohan and see them in action. But, like, they just ended up being on the comms with us. Like, even at the very end mission, where it was sort of like the assembling of the Avengers, and Nimbus is just on the comms controlling some defense guns. It's like, no, I don't want some turrets. I want Nimbus in here on their surfboard, messing people up alongside me and Kaido. That's what I wanted. And I just felt really kind of disappointed that we never got to see the greatest defenders of Neomuna in action.
Yeah,
right.
I'm with you.
The irony is Bungie worked this out when they released Halo. Like, people loved protecting Marines. Like, there was that bond from being in combat and like seeing a AI troop go down that made like Halo some of the greatest gameplay moments. And it's like Destiny just forgets that altogether, that builds character and relationships with those, you know, with those characters. And that's why we didn't care when Rohan died. It's like, I haven't worked with him. I don't know anything about him. There wasn't enough build up to even really care about Rohan.
He could have been like a really interesting character, like, because he was at the end of his lifetime as a Cloud Strider. Right? Like, he even mentions that at some point when you go talk to him. And then just to see him die, it's like, like, I don't have that big a problem with Nimrod, aside from the way he acted after we killed Callus. I thought that was just really odd. But, like, I was kind of like, why do we keep Nimrod and we lose Rohan? Rohan has got so much to teach us. You know, his interactions with, who's the guy with the feathers? Osiris, thank you. His interactions with Osiris I thought were really cool. Like, there was so much deeper we could have dived into that character. And to just kill him off with kind of never knowing him. Like it didn't hit emotionally. So it was just kind of like, why is this here? It felt like, again, like a side story that just was filler.
I think like some of this stuff, like with Cloud Striders and Neo Muna and everything, there is so much that happens post campaign that tells you about the history of the Cloud Striders, all the way back to the first Cloud Strider, that I would have actually really liked if that was a part of the campaign. Maybe it's not like a full-on mission, right? But it's like an actual side quest that you go into before you continue to the next main story, because finding out all of that stuff after we lose Rohan and after we've, you know, known the other Cloud Striders for a while, I don't feel as connected. But now I've got all this history about all the Cloud Striders and what they do, and you get to hear their voices and their personalities. And I would have loved to have experienced that within the campaign before it ended.
It reminds me of the same issue I had with Beyond Light. Like some of the best narration in Beyond Light was the interactions between Elsie and Anna after you've done the main quest line, and now you're unlocking some more of the stasis aspects and fragments. A lot of players who just interact with the DLC campaign are never going to see those interactions. And then we get all this great backstory between Elsie and Anna Bray. And I thought that was some of the best storytelling they did that whole DLC. And same thing now with this. Like, I feel like you really got to deliver big on the campaign. Like, that's your first impression for, especially you look at like the player counts for Lightfall launch day, like record-breaking numbers for Bungie with Destiny 2. Like, this is a huge opportunity to show people that you've got a deep narrative, wonderful storytelling, some excellent characters, and they dropped the ball on that. That was one of my biggest disappointments, is because if someone's just diving in for the first time, they think Osiris is a huge douche. They do, because for that entire campaign, he was a huge douche.
He's always been a huge douche.
All of that. Like, I felt like they really had an opportunity, and I wish they would have delivered more in the campaign with the storytelling.
Yeah, I really feel like emotionally, the end of last season hit harder than anything in this campaign did. And that's really weird to have the end, like going into this season, because I was like emotional, everything with Rasputin and Anna. And then to go from that to this, where I'm like, what just happened? Why is everyone acting like the Traveler's gone? Like, did I miss something? I'm so confused. Like, I'm more confused than emotionally invested.
And to not put a
despite
sentence,
enjoying myself.
To not put a sentence anywhere, just giving us the most brief explanation of what the Veil is, why the Witness wants it. Like, it just felt like the entire time the MacGuffin was so in your face you couldn't avoid it. You know what I mean? Like, it was just...
Yeah.
Give me just a little tidbit of something to explain any of this, because it really just, why are we going after the Veil? Because the Witness wants it. Why is the Witness wants it? Because it's the Veil. Okay.
Yeah, I was definitely excited about the Veil, of finding out about it, because we've heard about the Veil. We had very little information about it, but we have somewhat interacted with it. So I was certainly excited to find out more about the Veil.
Before I go to the Veil, I just want to say on Nimbus, the post, like, what I found odd is, like, Rohan dies, right? And then Nimbus, like, pretty much moves on from it.
Immediately.
And makes jokes about it, right?
Yeah.
And in that moment, in that campaign, I'm like, it's very hard to like this character. But then you get in the post-campaign, they're like, Cloud Striders, we don't, we try to move on from grief. We have short lives. You start getting, you're like, okay, that makes sense now. But I sort of needed to know that he was struggling with Rohan's death. Sorry, they were struggling with Rohan's death during the campaign.
Yeah.
So that behavior made sense. Otherwise, it just comes across like super douchey, a little bit like with Callus and Keitel, and it just made for a very unlikable character when it felt like Bungie spoke so much about the backstory of Cloud Striders in their like showcase, how they only lived for 10 years and they've got this, and you could tell that they had developed this character, but it just didn't come through in the game until you started doing some of the post-campaign stuff. And I feel like that did Nimbus dirty, to be honest, and made that character pretty unlikable.
It's actually something that I said as well. It's like basically the same thing you said, where I said about streaming, and I said to Chad, I was like, we have to think that these people, when they sign up to be Cloud Striders, they're signing up to cut their life drastically. And they're signing up to know exactly when they're going to die if they don't die before then. So if you live in this constant state of being upset about death and grieving, you're going to be so messed up in the head the entire time because you're losing your comrades all over the place. They only have 10 years max. So it makes sense that some of them would have that approach of just like taking it on the chin almost and laughing about it. Because if you were to just sit and wallow in the pain and sadness of grief, it's not going to go well for you for those 10 years.
And I think that was like my overall issue with the story is I wanted to learn about Neomuna, the Cloud Striders, the Puka, like all these like super interesting things that were just hinted at, and like it was just basically the
Puka, but after the campaign.
Well, yeah, very
emotional
briefly.
Support fish.
Yeah, well, if you watch the bloody video on the Lightfall Collector's Edition, we already said that once. Yeah, they are emotional support. It's a nice confirmation. But, you know, like that fish of the Exo Stranger has literally been a mystery in Destiny since Beyond Light.
It's been a while.
It didn't even get any screen time. And the reason... And
it got one really good... That a little interaction with Osiris and the fish, I thought was pretty good.
Yeah,
that was nice touch. Yeah,
Osiris needs a fish ASAP. Give him fish.
Yeah, he needs 2 fish.
But like, they made the link in the collector's edition, but it wasn't made like in game. And I made a video talking about the fish because the fish is super important for Exo Stranger because she has all these time loops and her memory gets jumbled, and the emotional support fish helps her relive memories, which is how Elsie Bray mastered stasis in the first place and knew that it was tied to emotions of control, which then links the whole campaign with like light and darkness being like the non-physical and emotions and nightmares and all this kind of stuff. And it was just like not really there. Puka. Veil. Sorry. So we were talking about the Veil, or do you want to say something else?
I'll just say an overall thing that I'll say about the campaign is that Bungie, at a certain point, were very like, it's an 80s action movie. It's an 80s action movie. It's an 80s action movie. And I think if I look at an 80s action movie, it 100% was that. They delivered on it being an
We're even crawling through the vents of skyscrapers.
Yeah. We had a training montage, which I thought was funny.
It needed better music, but I agree.
There was another interesting interaction with the ghost where the witness seems to take control of the ghost to activate the veil or to bring the veil toward him. I'm not exactly sure what the veil is or how it works or what it did. But the ghost gets like kind of taken over. And your guardian is confronted with the option to destroy his own ghost. And I was like, wow, is he going to take that shot or is she going to take that shot?
Yeah. And
they totally wussed out on it. And Nimrod goes and like grabs the ghost out of the sky. Man, I wanted him to take that shot because what does that mean to like Destiny from here on out, right?
Yeah.
That would have been Lightfall. Right?
That's Lightfall. Contextualize
we didn't get that.
Yeah. Also, why the heck in that moment does our guardian reach into their pocket and pull out the Kvastov with the shattered glass from 10 years ago? I was like, why? Like, I don't.
It really makes you go, there must be something there's got to be quite a bit of cut stuff that had to be cut during this because it makes literally no sense.
It makes no sense. It's like one of the most climactic, like Briar's talking about that suspenseful moment where you're like, is he going to take that? What the frick is that? You know what I mean? Like, it completely took me out of it and just made me confused. I don't know.
You think he had if they had a gun with a real sight on it, he would have taken the shot?
He's like, I'd take the shot. I can't see to the freaking.
It's weird too because the rest of it's rendered for your character. Like you see your personalized guardian there, and that's what really took me out. Because then I'm thinking like, well, why did they specifically not render my weapon when they rendered the rest of the custom stuff I had on? Yeah, completely disconnected me from that moment as well. What really did connect me to a lot of different moments though were Tormentors, which we haven't really talked about yet.
Are dope.
But oh my gosh,
hate them.
The moment that one of them grabs you, so
they're
good.
so mean.
Yeah.
God, I love them. They're great. They're just the whole time through that, especially the first mission, because you don't know what's going on, and the ship goes dark, and I'm like, oh God, please don't come out and grab me. Don't come out and grab me. Yeah, I like them a lot. I think they're great. They're fun.
I agree. What a wonderful addition in terms of combatants. Like, I love that they got creative and brought something that actually had some fear factor to it.
Definitely.
And when they show up two at a time too, they're tough to deal with.
Yeah. And when they pick up, if you're playing with a team and they like grab one of your teammates and your whole team's trying to fire at them, like, let go of my friend.
We had one of our guys throwing healing grenades at us, like, no, don't kill him.
Yes.
That's great. It's actually a fun thing about the Tormentors. So a Holtzman was in Mylan's chat during the Callus fight, giving him tips on how to deal with the encounter. And
it was pretty good, to be honest.
Holtz is like, there was a portion when Mylan was like, I'm cheating, I got hacks from a Bungie dev, and then he immediately dies. And it's essentially Holtzman that killed him because he had something to do with Tormentors, because he's on the combatants team. He's the reason that Tormentors suppress you. So Mylan was trying to get out of the way. He tried to jump, but then he got suppressed. So that was great. That was a full. Yep. That was a full like DCP moment where it's an original DCP host killed the new host.
Nice. Love it.
Bungie.
Down in the graveyard.
There will never be another Holtzman on this show.
Because honestly, Tormentors took me a while to sort of work out, because I was like, I don't quite know. Like, I knew it was sort of like a mini role, but I was like, are Rockets doing anything here? And trying to, because obviously they changed the colors of numbers too. So armored or mismatched elements are like the sort of dark orange now, right? Yeah. Orangey. And it was hard to see what's going on. And then it wasn't until really the Callus fight, and Holtzman was like, shoot one shoulder pad off, then shoot the other shoulder pad off, then it opens the chest up, and then it's like, then you can suspend them and you do huge, you can just like, because they're just dangling, you get like crazy crit shots, and you can just go to town. And that was good.
That's good. I didn't realize that's what you need to do, is to suspend them, because sometimes I was and sometimes I wasn't, and I was like, what? Why can't I? I guess this one's a different boss. But no, you just got to take all the shoulder pads first. That's good to know.
Yep. Once just like rotate. So they start off with shoulder pads, and then you crit them, and then it goes to the chest, and then you can suspend them, and the chest is like right there that you can just blast them.
Very cool.
Yeah.
They did mention, I don't want to get into the TWAB too hard, but they did mention the story in the TWAB a little bit. Like they kind of mentioned, we know that you're all eagerly awaiting answers for questions brought up during the campaign. And they say that they're going, like in the next year, they're going to be talking about the Witness's origins, its objectives, and the ways that we can thwart it and its disciples throughout the Season of the Deep, as well as Season 22 and 23 later this year, which I thought was interesting because it acknowledges that, maybe we didn't get everything achieved in the story that we wanted to, but there is more story about the Witness coming. And it kind of reveals what we've got to look forward to as far as story, which we haven't had in past seasons too much, right? It's like
So when the campaign ended, this is kind of what I said to Chad, because obviously there's a whole conversation about like we didn't get any answers at all, we just got more questions. So I said that I feel like the rest of the year is going to be building up to the final shape in a way that we haven't had the seasons build up to a next expansion before, and that it literally is the beginning of our end. So the end of the campaign is the beginning of our end. So when you think about it like that, it kind of makes sense. It doesn't make it good or bad or better or a good way for them to do it or whatever, especially if you have to buy the seasons separately to the campaign. But seeing that the final part of the campaign is we lost, and then the seasons following it are going to explain what has happened, what the Witness wants, what's going on with the Veil leading into the final shape, because we don't know how they're going to handle final shape. Is it just going to be the expansion and then that's it? No more seasons following it? Like, how are they going to do that? So I think really the seasons are essentially just still the Lightfall campaign.
Haven't they said they expect to have another 10 years of Destiny after? Or...
Well, we know that Destiny's not ending.
Right.
It's just I don't know if they're gonna go from like expansion into a season, because like we said last week, we're gonna need like an expansion to tie up this saga and an expansion to like start a new saga because it's going to be totally different.
It's almost like they're setting up that trajectory of like, hey, a campaign isn't the complete story. It's the seasonal content that's going to continue to spread the rest of the story, which I personally don't want that. Like, I want to play a set narrative, just go in and play a complete story. But at the same time, you do face that problem of, okay, next year we're going to have the final shape. And what happens after that, it has to be the conclusion of the final shape. It's a weird place to be. And maybe this is like heading in the direction to start us in that mindset of like, hey, the final shape isn't going to be the end of that story. There's actually going to be a little bit of seasonal content that explains it, which just feels gross coming those words coming out of my mouth because I don't like it. That's how much I dislike it. But that might be what we're stuck with. I don't know.
Now that we're talking about this, I think one of the main differences between something like Witch Queen and Lightfall is Witch Queen felt like a conclusion to Savathun's story, right? Like the expansion was a conclusion, whereas this expansion is the beginning. And I've been saying for a long time, like the cadence I always thought should be your seasons lead into the expansion and then your expansion's the conclusion. Probably not the best. I don't know how selling games goes, but maybe that's not the best way to sell a game. You want to start because now if you played Lightfall, you're like, okay, well, let's see where it goes. Like, all right, now we're gonna do the, or maybe it's too much of a barrier, and I think it's probably been enough of a barrier to cause confusion that people maybe aren't invested in it now, and you would be better around the other way where you have seasons that build the hype and build the story, and then you get that conclusion in a major expansion, and then you start the next sort of narrative cycle.
I wish we would have had you talked about the feeling of loss, and that was the point of this campaign. And I really wish that I would have felt that more at the end. Like, it just felt like even Nimbus is like, oh yeah, well, I'll take it as a win. And I'm like, but everybody, Zavala and Ikora certainly aren't, and I feel like I'm supposed to feel the weight and emotion of loss, and let that take me into the final shape. And I would have really liked to have had a more conclusive feeling rather than this vague, what am I supposed to feel? And I think that's what a lot of players seem to be feeling right now, is I'm not really sure what to think about that.
Is the Traveler dead? Like, do we have anything to go on there? Like, we really have no idea, right?
It's got a gaping hole. So the Traveler, interesting. I'm gonna say right away, I have not looked at any leaks or spoilers. I don't like that. For anyone listening, anything that I say about the raid or the future has nothing to do with any information. I'm just guessing based on what we've seen. But the picture of the raid that they had when they put out what it's called very much so looks quite similar to how the Traveler looks now in the triangle. It's the same like kind of pinky, flowery color stuff. Well,
when I fight its laser beam, it's like it looks a little bit like those colors too.
Like it was terraforming the pyramid ship. It wasn't a destruction thing, and that kind of lines up with what they told us about its powers, like giving life, creation,
I like that.
Yeah.
That was kind of cool.
So like Wad said, I don't read leaks or anything, but I have a pretty good idea what the raid boss is going to be from the in-game stuff. I did release a video.
One does not simply be brewed one time, if you know what I'm saying.
No?
You can reuse tea bags.
Oh, got it. Copy. I was like, huh? Brewed?
That's
brewed.
I thought you meant like which
brood mother?
Like threadlings, like a brood. A cup of tea. Yeah, right. So Nezarec, which I didn't have any faith in Bungie bringing this story back when they brought it up in the cutscene and we didn't get a conclusion in Plunder. I was like, this is just going to be another massive tease, a plot line that goes nowhere. I even got angry at chat and was like, bro, I guarantee you Nezarec is not coming back. I'll give you a permanent VIP if they come back. And I'm pretty sure they're coming back in the raid.
Nezarec.
I'm excited about that.
Yes. Very excited.
Yeah. So there's a strike mission where Nezarec basically talks to you.
That strike is dope, by the way.
It
Very
is
cool.
It is good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like whispering weird stuff everywhere. Every now and then when you're on Neomoon, he's like, hey.
Yeah.
Have you tried putting on
hello
Nezarec weapons?
Yeah.
That's what Mylan put out a video about that. You can check that out on Mylan Games YouTube channel.
I should have known.
This morning. Yep. I was told, yesterday, if you go into the best way to like repeat because you get them in different areas, the whispers, and if you don't have Nezarec Sin on or you don't have the glaive on, it's just like unintelligible. You can't hear it. Yeah, it's
Tormentor voices.
Yeah. And the same thing happens in the the arcade Lost Sector on Neptune. You go in there, just you can't hear anything. Put on Nezarec's Whisper, the glaive, or the Warlock helmet if you're a Warlock, and you can hear him talk. Talks about the Vex network. I don't know if you get multiple dialogue options, but very cool little Easter egg. Reminds me of way back when Bungie did the Mithrax Easter egg.
Yeah.
From Destiny 1, and Mithrax ended up being this massive character pretty much because of that. This sort of has a similar feel, like there's much love for Nezarec as a character, and he's pretty haunting, and he apparently is in between spaces, messing with the Cloud Arc, where the virtual consciousnesses of the Neomunians.
It's interesting to hear them comment on it. Like, I'm having weird dreams, all that dialogue when they reference it's really cool.
Yeah.
Is that from Patrols on Neomuna? Is that what that is?
Yeah, Patrols, the news updates, stuff like that too.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, the news update gives you some more stuff about Nezarec as well. And so I am imagining the raid's going to be Nezarec gets the power, breaks out of spaces, puts the Neomunians or Neomuni in
It's such a cute name, by the way. I was like, they're called Neomuni. That's adorable.
Yeah. I think he'll threaten the Cloud Arc, and we'll have to stop Nezarec for that reason to save Neomuna.
I think it'll be like in cyberspace, kind of like how we're in the Vex network.
Yeah, I'm thinking because the Cloud Arc is linked to the Vex tech, which is linked to the Veil, and Nezarec's in there too somehow. I don't know how he got from the body parts and brewed into a T.
How to get in the T into the Vex,
and then how he got back there. Maybe it's all to do with memory and that kind of stuff, and the Tormentors are imprints of Nezarec. I don't know how they're going to bridge that gap to bring Nezarec back into the fold.
In that final fight before Callus too, there's where were they, like shadows of Nezarec?
Yes.
I
remember seeing that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, Mylan, if this raid is our showdown with Nezarec, and then the final shape is the final showdown with the Witness, when does Zivu Wrath come into this narrative in the next year?
Season of the Deep.
Maybe it's just probably true. Yeah, that's where you
the worms, the beasts. I ain't going in the water, Bungie. Don't make me do it. Video game water terrifies me. I'm not doing that, especially not with a big worm thing.
Is that going to be back mechanics on Titan?
Yeah, I think.
How does that play out?
It must be a season. It must be a season, to be honest. You can't not have Zivu in some fashion before final shape. Final shape we're assuming is going to be.
Do you think that's fair to Zivu Wrath? I mean, Oryx was his own DLC, his own raid, and a reprised raid. And then, Savathun was her own big DLC too. And I thought that we did good justice to those characters.
Yeah.
Put it this way,
last season's treatment?
Last season's cutscene I thought was the best cutscene that Destiny's ever made. So
yeah, but it was one cutscene though too. I mean,
if they do something like that, I think you could give it justice. But
true.
Yeah, it's a good point. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to see how they do it. It's hard, right? They've got a lot of things they need to wrap up in a year.
And they didn't do a lot of wrapping up right now.
They did. Yeah. Which makes you wonder how much the raid might actually wrap up things, because the Taken King, like the raid to that expansion was the closure of it, and I'm curious what this raid will mean if it involves Nezarec, and how you're saying that Nezarec is linked to the Veil, and it explains all this stuff we've been doing. I'm not saying that's great storytelling. Like, I would have liked to have known what I was getting into, but it could really make everyone feel a lot better about what we all just went through with the Lightfall campaign.
Yeah.
With the Veil, there were some other bits and pieces I need to go back and look at, but post-campaign, oh yeah, that's right. So they did some pretty, what appears to be some pretty heavy retcons in the post-campaign that a lot of people in the lore community are pretty pissy about. Primarily to do with the Soul Device of the Vex and the Black Garden, either the Black Garden mission. And they basically say that the Black Heart is like a second Veil. And was created by a Vex. And this sort of goes against 8 years of lore.
Oh, no.
Which is like the Vex, the whole Vex and the Black Garden found the Black Heart, couldn't simulate paracausality, which is why Vex have so many issues with Guardians, because we have the light and paracausality, and they can't simulate the light. And so when they found this power in the Black Garden, they did the only logical thing, which is to worship it, right? Which seems really illogical, but when you can't fight back against something that's paracausal, that's what they did. The new post-campaign basically says, nah, one of them created their own god, which was this mind, and the Black Heart's like a veil, which is why we're after it, because we want to, like, I don't know, work out some backwards compatibility to work out how to get through this portal.
I have a quick question about that. With
rough.
the new lore, is that saying that, like, the Veil is the Traveler's Heart, and then this remade fake Veil is like the Black Garden's heart, or like the Darkness kind of heart, or are they the same?
Chat might know, because I haven't gone back over this, but you know how the Witness is like the pale heart is the key. So I think what the Witness had to do, use the Veil, use the Ghost to establish a connection between the Veil and the pale heart of the Traveler, which allowed the portal to be opened. So those two things being linked together made this portal to wherever.
That's what the purple triangle was?
It's a portal, yeah.
Oh.
I'm suspecting that this is going to go outside of the Soul System, and this is how they're going to start New Destiny outside the Light and Dark Saga, and it's not going to be set in our system, and it just gives them free reign to have whatever planet, every place.
Or it's a hard reset because we go through the portal, and the portal somehow gets closed behind us. We don't have access to our vault. And,
Star Trek Discovery all over again.
Now we have the power of flowers. It's going to be Destiny. No more light.
Flower power, baby.
Third subclass.
That could be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm obviously going to make a video on the Veil. I've got hours of footage to go through, all the tiny little things that
so many lore
they
books.
said about the Veil.
So many.
No, your job's easy, Miley. You're just going to play video games for a living. Stop complaining.
The lore glaze over Mylan's eyes right now makes me feel like I looked like an hour ago looking over the whole mod system and how all these different buffs work in PvP or PvE.
Well, guess what? None of them work because it's all bugs.
Some of that hurts me, dude. Like, I feel like I lost a lot of build crafting.
We did.
Surprise attack in particular.
I know we had power creep. I'm not blind to that. I totally understand that, but rolling back all of those things just completely took all of the time, energy, and effort I put into those builds,
right,
and dialed it all the way back. And it was disappointing because, I mean, you referenced surprise attack. Who's out there using surprise attack? Barely anybody.
I know,
but I am, and I loved it, and it's gone. And so it's a double-edged sword. Like, I understand why they did this. I don't like it, and it's like, they're totally justified, but it makes my heart hurt,
For me, I feel like PvE players more than PvP players, because a lot of PvE builds got taken away with all that stuff, like way more than PvP builds. It's like,
absolutely.
There's some pretty big PvP stuff, like not having free mobility from powerful friends, not having quick charge, a plus 25 handling to like almost any close range gun you want. So all
high
that
energy
stuff,
fire,
yeah,
plus any of the other mods that create, yeah.
But I didn't realize that the Surge mods, which are basically like high energy fire, font of might, like mixed together in a lesser version of, they work in PvP and they stack on empowering buffs, which high energy fire did not stack on stuff. And so it like opens the door to like all these new possibilities, but also closes the door to a lot of different build possibilities. So to me, it's exciting because I'm like, oh, it's like a whole new game. I just got to approach it like that almost. But I understand and I feel for those who, like you've said, like you have spent time making these builds and now almost none of them work anymore. So I could see that frustration for sure.
Yeah, it feels like they've just reset the foundation so they can build upon it now. And they're just like, that was a bit out of control. We need to have a bit of a game plan for what we can build upon now, and it feels like it's at that point.
I think the seasonal artifact is going to replace all of their, all those mods that we had they just been introduced into the game, and then we just kept them and stacked them, and now they're going to be more like, okay, well, let's just do it on the seasonal artifact, let it experiment and have their fun. And at the end of every season, it gets reset and we do something else, but they don't get to keep it and power creep forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but how awesome is the artifact not being stuff you have to mod out, but it just automatically applies?
It's very good. So I didn't even so I obviously knew that was a thing, and I knew what I had selected, but it didn't really click until I got volatile flow on my SMG, my void SMG, whilst using Strand. So I was like, oh my god, I'm suspending things, and they're volatile, and they're exploding, and they're getting untangled, and yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. We mentioned PvP. Watts, did you notice that the map rotation is a little different? We got Anomaly back. We got Cauldron back.
I got Anomaly and Clash, whereas before they were gone.
I am so happy that they dialed that back. It was just almost exclusively huge maps, and now it seems to be like a 50-50 split. And I'm like, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, God. Thank you, whoever.
A lot better.
I appreciate that so much.
That's really
what's nice. What's the Cruci like? I'm literally not even stepped foot in it.
I've played 4 games.
There's still a lot wrong with it. In my opinion. I know that I listen, I don't speak for everybody. Some people love the way it is. Personal opinions, there's still a lot wrong with it, but I'm very happy that they at least addressed the map rotation so that it wasn't almost exclusively humongous maps. I'm not running into lots of let's just sit together with pulse rifles and scout rifles in the back of the map anymore. Like there's a lot more dynamic, movement and gameplay out there.
How's Strand feeling?
Strand is really, like we mentioned this earlier. Strand is really technical, so it's not equip and profit, and that applies to PvP as well. Like people are not just going into PvP with Strand and dominating. Like you have to learn it, you have to finally tune it. And, that's, I, in my experience, a lot of people are actually just reverting back to last season meta builds for PvP, which can be annoying. You're like, I just got a brand new gun, and thanks to skill-based matchmaking in my lobbies, it's all these Solar Hunters, Healing Grenade, Worm Husk, Teraba, Ikelos, SMG, and it's like, I just want to use this new auto rifle. Can I try that? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's Strand feels very supplemental. It actually kind of feels like how other subclasses maybe should feel more like, in that you use it to move around and kind of open opportunities, but you're not leading usually with Strand stuff, right? Like with the Hunter dive, I'm kind of waiting behind a corner if someone's going to rush me, and I do it. It's supplemental. I'm not going in there and being like, woo, grapple and punch them, because I'm just gonna get shotgunned if I do that. So it feels much more supplemental, which is better.
I love it. Like I'm in love with the Broodweaver Warlock in PvP. It's so fun. But I did have to, like you're saying, I had to change it because I went into it coming off the campaign where I was like, I look within, and now I'm a Strand God. And then I go to PvP, and I'm like, who's ready to fight the Strand God? And I go with the 0.5 KD. So I had to change the way I approach things. Like, it really is there to supplement your gunplay. The Threadlings are not fast, and the Warlock is really all about being a minion master. So you do have to be a little bit more premeditated with your engagements. Like, let the threadlings go in first. They're not fast. Give them a second, and then I go in after them. And I pick up the ones that are left, and they come back to Mama TV, and we go walk. That's really cool. I didn't know that initially, that you could pick your threadlings back up if they don't find a target to attack. They just come back to Mama Vanguard, and we go on a lovely little walk. And then I can put down my rift, and then they'll go off. That's my way to send them off, or shooting people. I find it, like I said, technical, very fun once you understand how everything works.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, I feel like Bungie's really dialed in on the technicality of like subclasses and weapon balance and ability balance, and stasis I think sometimes feels underwhelming because the other ones, I don't think it's a stasis issue. I think it's like restoration and solar class is just so powerful to stay alive, and Vault is so good to just clear ads, and it's sort of like, I actually think Strand and Void are probably the classes closest to what Bungie wants to achieve with like gunplay and ability play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could agree with that.
Yeah.
Overall, I think that healing in PvP was a mistake. I think there's just way too many. There's way too many ways to suddenly start winning a gunfight you were clearly losing and deserve to lose, in my opinion. There's just, right now the meta is, how many different ways can I get health on command if I make a mistake and the other guy is playing well? And that to me is really frustrating, because your overall TTK for a lot of these engagements just skyrockets. I clipped this for a video. There's an engagement I had today where I did 460 damage to one guy in 4 seconds. He did not die, and I ended up losing the engagement. I did not heal myself in the engagement, and he healed himself 3 times in 3 different ways. And I was like, this is stupid. Like, this is just downright dumb that this is a thing that exists in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I haven't engaged with that many solar class since I've jumped into the Crucible a lot of different times today, and it was mainly just a bunch of people messing around with Strand or falling back into a few old builds, but not too many solar subclasses. But I agree, TV, that is the one thing that like really gets me down, is the constant healing. The other thing that has come across like PvP players is the overshields, but it's been cool to see all the suspend knocking people out of their stationary positions. So I love that for Strand. I love Strand's mobility to get around people who are being stationary. And I do agree that it is like a learning curve to master Strand. And I'm wondering what that's going to look like at the high end once it is mastered. I'm really curious what Trials is going to look like, what Threes is going to look like. But right now, Sixes, it almost feels like a ghost town for me right now, because everybody is still playing, you know, just the campaign. I had a game earlier where it started me 4v4 and never put any more players in. And I was like, well, it's just a really slow game. We're just learning the ropes here.
Let me ask you, Lego, do you know, I was just thinking about this. Can you grapple grenades that other people throw, like if they aren't straining grenades?
I don't know.
Like, for example, if I were to throw because I run a full Ahamkara build, if I were to throw a trip mine at a wall that I know people are at, could my teammate grapple it and follow it in, and as it detonates, he's there to do the melee to finish it? Like, that would be so cool.
I really think you're able to, because of the way you can shoot the grenades, and because of the way you can throw 2 grenades and they hit each other. Why wouldn't you be able to grapple them? You know, it's an object. So I bet you can. That would be awesome.
We gotta try that. Let's get a private match when this is done and try it out.
If you get a really slow rocket launcher, you get the lowest velocity rocket launcher you could find. Can you grapple onto that?
Man, if Glaive Flying was on right now, I would be having a blast. If we still had Glaive Flying when Witch Queen first came out, because you could do that in PvP so easily.
Sure.
Rocket would be cool, though.
I can't wait to to see what movement tech people understand.
Yeah,
come to learn out of this.
Yeah, you can't grapple onto like a Slover bomb or something, can you?
I feel like you can grapple onto everything. I feel like it's really anything. It seems like anything.
Yeah, it seems like anything.
Can you imagine a Slover bomb with the whole team just like hanging behind it?
You mentioned Deathbringer. Deathbringer is that's like my #1 favorite heavy exotic weapon in the history of Destiny. I have a hard time taking it off. That would be really cool if I launched it up into the sky over a team and somebody grapples it and follows it in.
Yes.
Dude.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I wonder at what range some of these projectiles Bungie's going to be like, no, you cannot go that high, and like kick you back down, you know?
That's right.
Because you can shoot that
Wow.
rocket over walls, like across the map, and have it blow up in other parts of the map.
Ooh.
Yeah, definitely might actually be really fun. Get a team together and
I'm gonna write these down. I gotta check this out.
Pop out the death bringer, everyone else grabs
things.
onto it, and you just lob it like over the walls, over maps.
I feel like a new segment's coming in, which is like DCP tested.
What can I grapple?
Or a stamp on it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very cool.
I like it.
Yeah,
but yeah, PvP feels pretty fun right now, I think. Like there's still remnants of healing and everything, but everybody learning Strand. That's exactly what I want when I go into the Crucible. Is everybody just running around, not really knowing what they're doing, being a little more aggressive.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Discovery,
Yeah, unfortunately, I do feel like there is that, because everybody's learning the mod system at the same time, like these two things are released at the same time, that promotes the regression back to old ways. Yeah. And then on top of that, we're coming out of a meta that wanted you to play further back. And that has kind of seeped over into this season as well. But I think the more time goes on, we hit a good middle point. I'm hoping that it speeds up the Crucible a bit.
Agreed. Briar, when was the last time you played any PvP?
2015.
What about Gambit?
Well, I was going to ask you if you've played it all since all the SBMM changes.
No.
Okay. Well, that's the end of that conversation.
Yeah,
no. All right.
Pretty much avoiding the Crucible.
What else we got? Have we covered Lightfall? Is there any other aspects of Lightfall?
We talked about the seasonal stuff at all.
Seasonal, yeah.
Yeah, the seasonal stuff. Let's hit the seasonal stuff. Because that activity, the battlegrounds,
pretty good.
Pretty cool.
Pretty
you go
good,
to the Ascendant Plane, and it's like a real journey through the pyramid.
You know what has been really good is all the different environments, like and it's on theme, like with both the campaign and seasonal stuff, like going back through the Ascendant Plains and like the Black Garden and like these other environments we've been to before, but replaying them seems to make sense in the context of the Witness arriving and all that kind of stuff. So that's been fun seeing, like even Season of Splicer stuff, like with like Vex Tech and the platforms. Like it's been really cool going through all the different environments again.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm really enjoying that activity. How I feel like it's not too difficult, but it's just the right amount. They've really mastered mob density, I feel like, is what it is. And so that any build that you put together, it can feel very fun and exciting. It just continues on that theme of action movie, but maybe even better done. Like, I think I might like a lot of the seasonal content better than the actual story, because I'm pretty invested in Crow and Amanda, for instance, and I want to see what happens with their relationship and where they left things off.
I was so happy smirking already. I was so happy. She plugged him right in the heart.
I think that was probably the most I've laughed at. Definitely a seasonal thing for sure.
That was good, yeah.
It was so good.
Shout out to, I can't remember which YouTuber. I think it might have been Esoteric that put that up on his channel, because I did not see that, and I can't remember what special circumstances you had to do to see that cutscene, but I didn't see it, so I was able to see it.
I think you have to do the seasonal.
No, I think it doesn't play. I don't think it plays for everybody.
No, if you leave early, you have to wait for the time.
Briar's over there speed running. Slow down, Briar. Relax.
Getting raid ready.
He's getting raid ready.
But
that was
amazing
so
moment. And then, like, am I supposed to start feeling bad for Crow? Crow's definitely gonna die, right? Like, they're setting us up. He's gonna sacrifice himself for the good of other Guardians, right? They're
trying to pull a Rohan.
You don't think so?
Nah. No, I think Bungie's got too. I think they like him too much. I think he's their poster child too much for a lot of things. They're not gonna let him go like that.
That was hilarious.
It was really good. Yeah, for those who didn't see the cutscene, basically Crow comes running around the corner. Ikora has chaperone and shotguns him right in the chest, which Amanda, I'm not saying that you're using chaperone wrong, but you're not supposed to aim for the chin.
Distance.
She got the job done.
She got the distance on it. Like she had that Roadborne procced.
She probably did. She's
not playing PvP. She's shooting for center mass. She wants those vital organs. Yeah,
that's true. That's a good point.
Crow was literally one shot.
He came around the corner.
He's one shot. Dunk.
She was in an empowering rift with high energy fire. It worked. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ghost is rezzing him, and he's like, "No, it's fine. It's fine. I get it.
This happens all the time."
I do love how much they use death throughout both that and like death and resurrection from our ghosts, from that and the scene you mentioned earlier, Watts, where you have the training montage where you kill yourself a bunch. I laughed out loud for that and with Crow. Yeah.
I did really like that. Yeah, where you're trying to master strand and you're like, oh, that again.
Collapsing on it.
Yes. It's that callback to the original, was it D2 original or D1 where you have Cade who's like, prepare for res ghosts, like in the middle of one of the original missions, but you actually see it this time. Like,
yes.
Yeah, I love that. That was great.
Or like when Zavala, I think it was a D2 launch cutscene, wasn't it? When Zavala dies over and over and over again and his ghost is reviving him before he's the Vanguard.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yes.
That's a deep cut. I remember that.
It's a good scene to introduce people into what Destiny is. Speaking of
do we want to go over?
Introducing to what Destiny is, we got Guardian ranks now as well.
We did. I saw someone in the tower go from Guardian rank 1 to 2. Oh. And if you haven't seen this happen, there is actually a whole effect that happens to the person. So they go all shiny, they go gold. When they're running around, they're leaving like a gold trail behind them.
That's cool.
So yeah, like super level up, everyone knows. Yeah. Pretty cool.
I just liked all the memes where people were crying, like, no one knows I'm season rank 100. I level 6.
I've never cared about that, but in one of my raid teams, there's a gal who is consistently in the top 5 for Guardian for your seasonal rank. She always flexes that. And that's like really special to her. So I don't care, but then like seeing her now not have that to flex, it does hurt me a little bit. I'm like, oh, I feel bad for her because that's really important to her.
I was watching Dada's video. He was a little disappointed too. He's like, I have thousands of raid completions. I am the world record holder for the most whatever triumph score it is or whatever. But I'm Guardian level 6.
You're 6. Yeah, I was a little disappointed with that system too. The way they described, well, for 2 reasons. One, the way they described it made it sound like your Guardian rank, and how good of a Guardian you are is based on our pre-made conditions. You know what I mean? Like, here's a checklist of things you have to do. And so to me, that really has a separate vibe from the whole play your way and become legend vibe that they laid down, a decade ago. And so for some people, they are a one-trick pony, but they're really freaking good at that one thing. They're like a master raider, master crucible player. They could be Guardian rank 4 and be the greatest crucible player in the history of the game and have 700,000 PvP kills, and you never know it. Their Guardian rank just says 4, which is less than 6, which most people have right now. You know what I mean? And so I don't know that I really dig that system because it is a preset list of conditions that the developer has decided are the things that are important to level up your rank. So
you have to go in and like interact with like a list of things to get to the next rank. You can't.
I don't have strong feelings about it. It's not something that I lay awake at night like, man, I'm just so pissed off about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I was a little bummed out about that. I don't know that I vibe with that.
It seems like just another thing to grind. Like you can go out and grind those specific activities to get your rank up, but like TV said, you can't just play your way. Like I just glanced at the activities it had highlighted for me, and I was like, I'm literally never gonna do any of those things. So I guess I'm ranked 6 from now on.
I was the same thing. I was like, that ain't me. I'm doing that.
I mean,
that now shows above your head, like
it does. Yeah,
people look at you.
Yeah.
It seems like Guardian rank was more of a solution for the new player experience than it was for existing players who know how Destiny works and know what they're doing and know what activities they like. You know, it's trying to get players who are new to the game to access the wide variety of activities to see what they should be doing.
And it makes sense for that. But
it makes sense for that, but it doesn't seem like it gels with current players who are familiar with who are familiar with Destiny, and so Destiny needs something to help new players, and it's so disappointing with how Lightfall went because of just the confusion with the narrative. Because I actually thought it was going really good for the first half because it had so many cutscenes, so many like varying ways of storytelling, from ink blots to like in games to like rendered cutscenes, and it was like very friendly for new players, and it's just like the veil. No one fucking knows what happens. And it was like, huh?
You know what I forgot to mention about the early cutscene was Zavala says something to the effect of the Traveler left to he specifically left to go confront the witness. I was like, oh, well, you're putting a lot of faith in the Traveler there, aren't you, Zavala? Because like, how do you know he did that?
You're not
like,
the
he
speaker.
Just took off.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know why he took off. You're like reading a lot into that, aren't you, Zavala?
Yeah.
I almost wish the ranking system would show that one, like that number, like up into a certain point, and then it's like, okay, you're like a guardian now. Like you are past this, like getting to know the game point. Because I feel like the people who are currently playing the game, they don't really love that number. Just previous to that, though, if it's helping somebody learn and get into the game, though, then it sounds like a good system. Like Watts was saying, the person like lighting up and like, oh, that's awesome. Like this person's making their way through it, or this person's a level 2. Let me go help them. Specifically, like an indicator to go and assist new players. That kind of stuff is cool. But it sounds like overall, no one really likes seeing the number. What is it, 6 over your head at the moment?
Everyone's a 6.
Yeah, everyone's 6. Yeah.
Have you guys made loadouts yet? Have you interacted with that loadout screen?
A couple. I've made a couple.
I have. Yeah. So speaking of some kind of weapon stuff, so today at Terminal Overload, which is the activity that you do on Neomuna, the SMG is dropping. And this is a Strand SMG. So
600 RPM,
Yep. And you can just
tell me those numbers. Yes.
You can just farm.
Don't be dirty, PV. What's the reload speed?
You can just farm it because it's the SMG that's dropping. You can just sit there, do Terminal Overload, and kind of get your favorite loadout. And I got one to drop that has Pulse Monitor and Hatchling. And Hatchling is a perk
so
where
freaking cool.
It's so good. Precision final blows or rapidly defeating targets with non-precision weapons spawns a threadling at the target's location. So you have access to threadlings just using whatever else. You just every now and then while you're shooting stuff, you're spawning threadlings.
How do you farm this? Is there a strat or what?
So there's a couple things. So yeah, you farm that activity. It's actually its own node on. It's kind of hard to see. It's like kind of translucent.
Is this like the Neomuna escalation protocol? Is that what it is?
It's kind of like that. Yeah. Okay. So you queue it up. There's no way to fail it, luckily. So if it's just you, it'll take you half an hour, but you can get it done. But usually other people are joined. You'll get it done around 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how efficient people are. 2 chests pop up. One's free. One you have to use keys on. Keys you collect in various ways on Neomuna. But then it's the same thing as Menagerie. As soon as you open that chest, you hop on your Sparrow, you fly out of the zone, you turn around, you come right back, you can open that first chest again, and you get another 100 reputation with Nimbus, which is great for farming your reputation up. I've got my rank is maxed out now, which is great because now those engrams only give me Neomuna drops, weapon drops specifically, which is a great thing to do. But anyways, And you can farm those guns endlessly. They are not red border guns. So yesterday was the shotgun. Today is the SMG. They're not red border. You can't craft them. So you have to farm them. They can come out of both chests, but they're guaranteed to come out of the second one, I think.
Yeah,
So,
I think when you hit rank 15, it's guaranteed to be like that weapon every single time. Is what I've heard, but I've gotten the weapon every single time I've opened the second chest.
Oh,
so you can get a lot of them.
You can get a lot.
Because I was thinking, it's the season of Defiance. It's red borders, right?
Yeah, they said they were going to dial back how many craftable weapons there are.
Okay.
So, but it is cool to have, today's, like Watt said, is the SMG. It's a strand SMG. So if that synchronizes with some of your builds, like if you run, for example, things like Mantle of Battle Harmony, there's a lot of synergy there. You think about it, like the origin trait for these weapons, these Neomuna weapons, gives you this homing strand rocket after consecutive hits, which does like 30 damage in PvP. It can do up to like 35, I think. I don't know why it changes, but sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. But on top of that, you get, like Watt said, hatchling. And when you kill somebody, you get a little threadling. So now you've got a rocket, a threadling, and then something like Mantle of Battle. I can speak. You get that to kick in, and you get extra damage too. Like you can just melt people with all this just extra damage that's happening. So it kind of goes back to what we've been talking about with Strand. It's technical. There's a lot of things going on, and if you understand them, you can manipulate them in such a way to benefit you.
I was so
really cool
for a Strand, with Strand SMG, because I like SMGs and sidearms more than anything. Because you have like destroying a tangle with a Strand weapon suspends enemies in an explosion. You also have different mods in the artifact where you will add unraveling rounds to your Strand weapons. So there's a bunch of stuff that can go into your builds with Strand weapons, and it's been really fun. I was using it all day today, and it's been a good time. I've really enjoyed using it.
You reckon we're gonna have
376 kills on it, and I got it today.
Dang, girl!
Yeah.
You reckon Raid's gonna have the Strand shields, because we got Strand shields now? So do you reckon the Raid will have Strand shields?
Which
maybe,
Quicksilver Storm, the catalyst, gives it Strand as its element now too, which is very cool. So that's the one that I'm like, I want to complete this. Like I'm so close to it, just so I can do what you were talking about, Watts, where you shoot the threadlings and then create the suspend off of that just from using that exotic. It'd be pretty fun.
That's the build I'm going to go in the Raid with. I think I'm going to use that with the catalyst on a Strand build. It just seems really good.
Yeah,
it's really good.
As soon as you can create those tangles, that opens up all your build crafting, regardless of what class you're on. For the Titan, I just grapple to it and start smashing everything.
I just hope they can fix Quicksilver before Raid Day, because it's currently doing 40% less damage to red bars. So you probably don't want to do 40% less damage to red bars in the Raid.
It still slaps though.
It still does. Yeah,
it still slaps.
I'm like, okay, this is a little slower than like when I use SMG.
It doesn't necessarily do 40% less damage. Just compared to other exotics, is doing 40% less damage. Is that what you mean?
It's just not getting the 40% buff, right?
Yes.
It was meant to get the 40% primary exotic buff, but it didn't.
So it's just not as good as
other ones.
It's gonna be so good once it gets that buff back, though. Oh my god,
it's gonna be very good. Yeah.
And just to clarify too, we were talking about the Neomuna weapons from that activity. Just the ones from that activity are not craftable. The ones that you find on Neomuna are all craftable. So it's kind of like how, I don't know, the dungeon was, like how there's
Sniper, hand cannon, pulse, and GL, right? Those are the 4 that are craftable. Am I right? Are there more than that?
The fusion's craftable too.
The fusion's craftable too.
Yeah.
The Volta bracket.
Which, by the way, that intrinsic perk with the mini rocket, don't try to use that on special weapons. It doesn't. It doesn't work out well. It takes like 3 shots in Crucible, which you don't even have ammo for. So it's a primary weapon buff, which is weird.
I had a video today go live where I broke this down. The hand cannon, right? The round robin, which is a 120. And this actually works. So if there are 2 people side by side and I 3-tap one of them, the rocket goes out on its own. You don't have to fire it. It just goes out when you shoot the gun, and it'll do 30 damage. So I can 2-tap the next guy. It's so cool.
I love that.
So cool.
That sounds good. I haven't gotten one yet. I would love to get one. I got a lot of snipers, and I do really like that sniper in PvP. It feels good. It's a 72 RPM.
Good 50 zoom. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels good. I like it a lot.
I like it.
And the new perk, I always have to give Bungie credit because every season they come out with new perks that are just like, holy frick, that's awesome. So there's one that's like, what's it called? It's like get away or stay away, whatever it is. When people are not within basically SMG range of you, you get accuracy, range, and reload speed for free. And on a sniper and a hand cannon, that's freaking nuts.
It's really good.
Yeah,
that's perfect. Good. Also,
I feel like I'm gonna get better at.
Go ahead.
I'm just gonna say I think I'm gonna get better at PvP by osmosis.
Just by being in there.
We got you.
We got you covered.
PvE thing though, that fusion rifle is the first fusion to ever get volt shot, and volt shot on a fusion deals a higher multiplier to bosses than any other weapon in the game, other than Two-Tailed Fox, which now has Jolt too. So that's gonna be a very good DPS for bosses. You're gonna want someone with Two-Tailed Fox on your team to add that extra Jolt multiplier in there.
I'm glad to hear
Unrelated, but I will say your video on that was very well edited, by the way.
Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
It was really well done.
Yeah, they're always amazing.
Y'all.
Yeah, they make me look at my own. I'm like, what am I doing with my life?
I know.
My editing is so basic, bro.
You're getting videos out fast and getting views. That's what you're doing. I am not.
Yes, but the amount of care and attention you put into those videos is just, you can see it very clearly. So I honestly, I've told people this before off stream. I'm like, the commitment that Lego shows to his videos is like, you can tell he really cares. Like that's some real solid editing right there.
Thanks, man. That means a lot. Oh, now I got to catch up on some videos. I need to see the 2-tap hand cannon from TV. I need to see Mylan's lore video. I'm so behind editing all these myself.
Can you grapple it?
Can you grapple it? That's a short series right there. Can you grapple it?
That's the next one, yeah.
And you just go, yes.
Yes. If it flies,
as you fly off the map.
Oh, I really want Deathbringer to work so bad.
I do too. That could be so cool. Especially when it like detonates and rains down, and then you're like falling from the sky. That's got some anime vibes right there. I love it.
Especially if it's a hunter doing the backflip to the suspend down on everyone.
Yes.
Or the bombs to rain down on them. Oh my god.
Has anyone gotten the exotic glaive yet? The heavy glaive?
That thing is huge.
I'm a day behind. I'm gonna get mine tomorrow.
Some DPS. That's what I've heard.
It looks pretty great.
Apparently, it destroys.
Yeah. Oh, the bow though. The exotic bow that everyone gets. It's really good, actually.
Is it like
really, really good?
Okay, you need to tell me how to use it because I was not liking it.
So I didn't like it at first either because it's a lightweight frame, which kind of sucks. I hate I like lightweight bows on Whistler's Whim because it has gut shot, which lets you body shot, and it's like a precision. But this lightweight, the reason it's so good is because of the exotic perk that gives you up to 5. I think it's up to 5 of those ice arrows, depending on how many kills you get with the exotic bow. But the trick is you don't want to just use the ice to freeze and then break it with another weapon. You want to keep using the bow because when you shatter the crystal that you create from the exotic perk, it counts towards the exotic perk again. Everything that you shatter around gives you that many ice arrows again, and then you just shoot those out at the next few opponents. And as long as you shatter at least one enemy, you'll have at least one frozen arrow to shoot out again, and you can then freeze a boss. You can freeze ads next to them. It just creates this loop that's really easy to use, even if you're not using stasis.
Did you see? There's a content creator named Slick, and
yeah.
You can take him or leave him. He's got a ton of character. He's one of those guys that you either love him or hate him. But he found out that with that bow in PvP, well, yeah, it works in PvE too. But if you shoot it at your feet and to create the crystal, it will cocoon you. He was like in PvP and he like cocooned himself, and like people are walking past him like bad guys, and he's running a melee build on his Titan. So as soon as people are walking past, he like jumps out of this ice crystal just to start beating people down. It was hilarious. It's so funny that worked.
We need to pair that, because that's Stasis Bow in the kinetic slot. So then put Judgment of Kelgrath on with Surrounded. Let all the enemies come around. You break through and one-shot everyone.
Oh my gosh, dude, that'd be hilarious.
That's good.
And I'm just going to grapple you. So at some point, I'm going to be there, swinging around, doing circles.
They're just watching.
Watts is just in a circle.
I love it.
See, I can't take off Aegis Scepter at the moment. It's just very strong stasis. Everything gets frozen. Then you just get in there with the. It's really cool putting stasis weapons with Strand because you freeze something and then you could just grapple in there and then as a Titan you start swinging.
Yeah.
And then you make tangles.
It's the same with freaking Volatile, man. It's so good. Mixing stuff with Strand is really
Did you use that in the Legendary campaign, Watts? The Volatile?
Did, yeah. Yeah, that was good. That's when I was like, oh, it started to click. As soon as I got that mod and applied it, and I was like, okay. I see what's going on here.
Yeah.
Wait a second. I thought this was bad.
And
then you start stacking that with like every time you grab an orb, you're getting the Volatile. If you're running a Void class, you stack Devour on it. And then you stack up your armor charges and you're stacking all that stuff together. And you run Elemental Time Dilation on your class item now. And it gives you up to 20 seconds of whatever buff you want. Which is crazy. 20 seconds of a buff is just insane. And then for every armor charge, that's 20 seconds. So like instead of having charge with light times 3, you can have armor charge times 3, which is 3 times 20 seconds. So a full minute of a buff, whatever it is that you're going for.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And there's a perk in the last column on the artifact that makes it so that anytime you get a kill with a void weapon, you automatically get, what is it, like a 15% buff to void weapon damage after that?
Something like that. It's just free damage.
There's free damage. You like couple that with a void weapon that has rampage. Like I've got a brass attack
going on.
I've got a brass attacks with killing wind rampage. And you couple that with that, like, oh my gosh, dude. Then you put on the Mantle of Battle Harmony and you're like you're looking at like 45% damage buff? That's nuts.
Then what you need to do is use that with the machine gun from last season that everybody was using target lock on, but instead run Golden Tricorn for 50% damage buff.
That's right, dude.
Oh.
I gotta go, guys. Gotta get back to grinding, baby.
I feel like I need that overlay of that math meme just in front of me, just like numbers. 15% buff, 20% buff, 30% buff. Yeah.
Was there anything in the TWAB that we need to talk about? There's an update coming that's going to update Strand, right?
Yeah, the Strand. So it's supposed to be happening any second now, really. So, they dropped the TWAB, and it says that they have an update coming where they're going to just unlock all the fragments. Because they were going to be time-gated from... There was one next reset, so next Tuesday. And then there were some that were in the raid. So we were really dealing with quite a small selection of fragments with what they gave us for Strand. But I think people have been saying that Strand feels a little underwhelming. So they're like, let's just get people these fragments so they can fully build craft and experience what Strand is, because it's like what TV's been saying. It's a more kind of technical build where you do have to build into it for it to feel really strong. So having all the fragments available, I think, makes a lot of sense, especially as the sidearm is time gated to having all of the fragments, and it's got 7 steps in that exotic quest, which I'm sure is going to have like a bunch more lore to it as well. So it should help a lot with storytelling and with build crafting. So I'm excited about that.
They said those fragments were supposed to go live. They said later today. But what does that mean?
Today.
Are they live now?
8 o'clock.
I know. Like, am I going to bed after this, or am I grinding? I don't know.
Later today was earlier than now.
It's like 11 o'clock my time.
It's almost not the day for TV.
Yeah, I gotta get kids ready in the morning for school.
Same.
Bruh.
What else was in the TWAB? Story's just begun. They're like, hey guys, things are happening, don't worry.
Like a little documentary about the music.
Hey, that was cool. Really cool. If y'all haven't seen that.
I did love that.
Oh, it was
definitely
awesome. Actually, we didn't even mention that. The sound in the campaign was pretty epic. I didn't like the action movie style sound as much, but all of the like vocal D1 reminiscent vibes that came throughout the story were just so good. I wish that they did have the emotional impact to go with them, because the music itself is just epic. And the way that when I previewed the music, I was like, oh, someone's gonna die, like someone we know die. And it kind of did. It was someone, and I wasn't as emotionally attached to it. But I will say that funeral scene at the end of the story did connect pretty well with me, with that music, the way it comes in, and it's kind of one of those themes. I'm like, oh, this is the one. Okay, here we go. Here's the emotions.
Yeah. I also love them doing the Cabal theme, but it's different. You know, you're kind of just fighting, and you're like, okay, you hear the music, and then you hear the dun, dun, dun. It's like darkness Cabal, and you're like, oh, okay. I always like when they weave that into it. There's an Among Us collab. Oh. You're going to be able to be Saint 14, Osiris, Shax, Titan, Hunter, Warlock, Erismorn, and Marisov, and then there's some pets.
A collab that has my son coming up to me like, Daddy, can I spend money in Among Us? No. I
want to be Osiris.
Dad. I'm like, you play Among Us once a month. I'm not spending money. But Dad!
But TV, have you seen that there is a Callus Chalice hat?
A Callus Chalice. I want you to say that 10 times fast. Yo, but why? Honestly, like, I'm not a Callus fan, but why was that man's chalice empty for so long? No one was getting this man's a drink.
That cutscene was, I think, actually really amazing, because we've known Callus as this bombastic guy with the wine and the grapes and the money and the splendor and the baths and the massages probably, and he's just there like he's got an empty cup. He's like talking crap about the witness, and then witness comes up like, Callus, what are you saying? It's like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it is. So I do think that's one thing that slipped under the radar that a lot of people didn't pick up from the story, is that the witness like clearly does not care about Callus at all. Like,
and Callus, I feel like was like kind of getting that, like he this isn't all it's cracked up to be.
Who's gonna fill my cup? And the tormentors are like, bro, you are not my boss. You think you're my boss, but you're not my boss.
It's so sad because it really is like Callus sold everything that he was about, and all
Callus did nothing.
That guy. Callus literally gave up his daughter for this dream of being a power hungry.
His daughter, who cared not at all.
Screw that, dude.
I wouldn't either.
There's a reason for that.
He killed her dog.
There's a
Maybe
reason
he shit on
that.
the floor. You ever think of that? Maybe he was an indoor pooper.
Callus deserved all the trash he got this story.
Callus was a stand-up dude. Got a bad rap.
Literally the first time we fought him, he was sitting down, Briar. You know that, right?
Drinking wine.
Yeah, he's standing up.
You want to do some Twitter questions?
Yeah.
All right.
More than anything in the world, Briar.
Raid stuff in the TWAB, just raid's coming March 10th, right?
March 10th. Oh, they have the date for everything as well. So Iron Banner is going to be the week after the raid happens. So the Tuesday after, that's going to be Iron Banner. Guardian Games is May 2nd. Trials returns on the 24th of March. GMs are April 11th.
I will be eyeing that Trials SMG when it comes around.
Also, GMs adapt a buzzard.
Oh, TV.
Oh, that's true. I do want to
TV is going to be playing some GMs, baby.
Hatnote says, after years of speculation around the Veil and it possibly being the fifth enemy race, where does Destiny 2 go from here now that we know it's just a giant purple glowing butthole?
We don't know that. It could be a portal to where these people exist, where this enemy combatant type exists. You know,
maybe the raid that's why all the new people in it.
Maybe that was why the witness needed to pierce the veil and get access to that portal, because the witness needs to gather this army. I don't know.
What's the lore on that, Mylan? How'd you feel about that? That makes sense.
Yeah, like I said, I think this portal's gonna take us out of the soul system.
Well, because also, like what we've seen with raids as well is that it can drastically affect outside the raid, right? So what if you go into this raid and there's some new combatants we haven't seen or something's going on, and then when the raid's beaten, it goes into, Neo Muna and everywhere we're kind of experiencing. Possible. The raid could really open up a lot.
I'm concerned about this dude's butthole because it was triangle.
It's like it
poops
like the wombat
triangle.
Yeah, poops like wombat.
Yeah.
Mylan, you missed the wombat poop talk. You could have enlightened us on the cube poop.
I need new friends.
You missed out last week, TV.
Yeah, you missed out
Did I though?
Yes.
Did I?
We were talking about wombats. We Googled it. We read a scientific study about how their poop is a square, a cube.
And what was it? Their buttholes are square.
No, that's what we thought. If their intestines, it contracts so much that it creates this cube when they poop.
Nugget. Yeah, right.
Intestine compression.
Three Bros, One Controller podcast says, who else is on the Nimbus train? He's funny AF.
They.
Hey.
Yeah, I think they're
I don't hate Nimbus. I think their character is pretty cool overall. I just really feel like they could have written Nimbus a little bit better to really explain their motivation, their history, their desires, all that stuff. Contextualize Nimbus better.
I think it's like we said, right? Where if we know more about the Cloud Striders and what they're dealing with internally about, not living for that long and having to deal with that, it would make a lot more sense for Nimbus to be the way they are.
Yeah. And I also think it's hard to introduce a cocky, comedic character on the back of Cade, who technically is going through very similar things, like hiding all this pain under comedy. And I just think that's a very hard balance to get right. And I think Nimbus was probably doomed from the start to get that balance, especially when there's stuff in the post-campaign that probably should have been in the campaign to understand why these jokes were coming out, because really it's haven't really adjusted to Cloud Strider life, hasn't really taken on that creed of we're all part of the flow, the river, we're all going to die. I think they just needed that info there to make that work. And I don't think that did any favors for Nimbus. And I also think that, I don't know why every Neo Moonai seems to have the same sort of personality of Fringe Lord. I don't know. I feel like it's overused.
That's not true.
They work over there.
Rohan didn't have that personality.
Rohan didn't, but the radio operator,
Quinn.
the other the Quinn, Sam, is it Sam? Sam, the patrol
they're
missions.
all VTubers, or
yeah.
I guess
they're a little bit over the top. I think that probably hurt Nimbus's character a little bit too.
It doesn't help that they show us now there's a Cade monument in the tower now, so you're reminded of it as soon as you go to the tower, and then Nimbus.
Yeah.
Chris Benoit says, what is everyone's thoughts on Callus's finally being dead? I'm sad about it. He's the best bad guy character we've had, and we've had him for kicking around for such a long time. I would have been happy if the final cutscene of the final day before they turn off the servers at Bungie was just Callus drinking a cup of wine, looking at the camera. I'd be happy with that. I love Callus.
I think the hard thing with Callus is he was very much just a pawn in this Witness's game. So he didn't quite get the spotlight. Whereas if you took out Callus when Keitel was the focus of a season, I think it would have had a bit more impact, whereas everyone was so hyper-focused on the Veil and the Witness because that was the storyline. It didn't quite have that impact factor that I think it would have if it was the center of another expansion or campaign.
I'm a little different. I actually really liked the conclusion of Callus's story overall because for me, it really was Callus's degradation all the way to finality.
True.
We go from the Leviathan raid and just thinking of him as this godlike figure that's so powerful and opulent, just season of opulence. And then as we learn more about him, we sort of understand that he lost. He got kicked out of his own empire. he was exiled. He encountered a godlike figure that he thought was going to restore him, and he was so arrogant, and he thought, I will sell my soul to the devil. I'll give up my daughter. I'll give up my people to become this controlling, dominant power figure again, this leader. And just to see how his dream and everything he sacrificed just constantly got belittled and belittled to the point of finality where we fight him, and he has to experience that humiliation of the witness clearly is speaking down to him, is condescending to him. He ultimately dies at the hand of the person that he thought he subjugated was his shadow, and was going to pledge fealty to him. And so it's just the ultimate humiliation for his character, which I think is actually a fitting end for his arc, personally.
Yeah, I never really thought about that. Like that, for him to sort of just fade out like that for someone who was meant to be so, you know, opulent and extravagant, and to end up just some non-important piece in a wider war story.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay.
I'm glad y'all brought up the empty chalice in that cutscene too, because I noticed that, but I didn't really make the correlation between that and his position of like I got his reluctantness to like do the things the witness wanted, but not his emptiness of wanting all the pleasure that he dreamed of and all the opulentness, and it was this empty chalice, you know, and that was good symbolism.
It was, yeah. I enjoyed that cutscene a lot.
Legion Terry says, what do you think the witness was busy doing while we spent a week in a training montage with Osiris? Vaping?
Dude, I was just thinking, it's a montage. It's a training montage. It's a montage. I mean,
don't really
someone
know
in
how
chat
long
also
that
asked,
montage went on for, do we?
Why is the witness not just do, like, obviously the witness has all these minions that just keep not being good. Like, why doesn't the witness just do it themselves? I don't know. Someone suggested a theory that the witness is like trapped somewhere and like can't impact things in a certain way, and that's why they always communicate through this mirror.
Yeah.
Or nightmares or whatever.
Maybe they are where Nezarec is. That same kind of in between area.
I mean, it was out there in space though. Like our ships were trying to attack it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's when the witness actually shows up, if there's something that needs to happen for the witness to actually like interact, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Under what conditions is the witness allowed to directly influence the physical world?
Yeah. Because remember, in the first cutscene, the witness just activated the pyramid ships to destroy stuff. Didn't actually do it themselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the whole thing with the darkness, is all the like non-physical stuff. So maybe there is a catch-22 with why the witness hasn't done things themselves. I don't know.
This is a good
Next question
from
Briar?
Ryan Schaefer. He says, am I a bad person for actually enjoying it? The narrative has issues, but it feels like the entire internet is trying to make me hate the game and Bungie, but I'm over here having a wonderful time. No, man.
Oh, you like
Stay off the internet, man.
It is never wrong to like what you like.
No, man. It's
exceptions.
cool to like things.
It's good to have fun.
Also, people who like things are more fun to hang out with than people who hate things. I'm just saying.
Agreed. Agreed.
Like, it's way
I've been having
more
a good
fun.
time. Like, I've been having fun. Are there issues with the narrative? Sure. Are there certain things that I wish were a part of the campaign and they're in the after campaign instead? Yeah. But I'm having fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm having fun.
Arlo says, hey guys, love you. Just a small simple question. What is the veil? Mylan already explained it like 3 times.
It's the statue where we get the wish ender from.
Oh,
I like that accent. It was solid.
who was that? Give him a ban. Give him a goddamn boot. Give him a ban in chat. Give him a ban on YouTube. Give him a ban on Twitter. Get him out.
Hey Blaze says, now that Fran has returned to Kind of Funny Games podcast, is he officially in the DCP host graveyard?
Fran wants to come back on the show.
Awesome.
So Fran will be on again soon.
Perfect.
When he's played game more. He's been playing the video game.
Miss that guy.
Yeah, Fran's great.
Fran is great.
Yeah, I don't care what everybody else says about him. He's all right.
There is no host graveyard.
Fran Panic is
everybody is always invited to come back. Just because you don't have time to play a ton of Destiny and do a Destiny podcast doesn't mean you're not eternally a DCP host in your heart.
It's true. You enter DCP, you never leave. That Twitter group has people. No one leaves. They're there forever.
Right?
Yeah. Eternity.
No,
There's
we
not
know
much-
we're in for TV.
It's like the mob.
Yeah, that's right. What did I sign on to?
James says, do you think everyone would feel this way if there was less campaign cinematics in the trailers? No.
Less.
Yeah, why would you want less?
In the trailers, like they're spoiling it.
Oh.
I don't think so, because there were things that we saw in the trailers that we didn't actually get to experience in the campaign. I think that's probably a bad idea.
When I was watching the trailers, I didn't understand what was going on. But when I was watching the campaign, I didn't understand what was going on. It was kind of the same experience.
If I'll say this, if anything, Bungie's gonna look at the numbers this week on Lightfall, and they're gonna say we did everything right with marketing. You know what I mean?
Marketing was. I didn't have a
good.
problem with marketing.
That ain't gonna change. They're gonna keep that going.
Yeah.
I do think the people who, not just the what do you call it, the actual cutscenes, but like you were saying, the stuff that wasn't in the cutscenes that they just filmed for marketing, they just did a bang up job of showcasing everything. It might have led to some disappointment within the campaign without having those moments, but man, did they sell a lot of copies of the game.
That's
with
right.
that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Sam says, what has been the most inappropriate Strand joke or euphemism you've said or heard since Lightfall?
I haven't heard any, actually.
Yeah.
We're a family channel around here, so
No.
Yes.
That is untrue. Yeah, it's mostly just comparing it to jizz, honestly.
all right, Briar's going on my prayer list for the week. Strand jizz. Got it.
Soul Invictus says, what is the veil? This was a trick question because I don't even think Bungie knows. Real question. Who do you think would win in a fight, a Cloud Strider or a Spartan? Interesting. A
Cloud Strider's got a magic surfboard.
That turns into like a sword gun.
And they can like break walls with it, apparently.
Yeah.
Which never got explained either, by the way.
Yeah.
Just make another note for my review. See for tech. Question mark.
How
Breaking the
did he
wall?
do that?
That was pretty freaking cool moment. I forgot about that.
And I
Yeah.
was like, oh,
To
you can
make
do
our
that.
own.
Also, the cod
Well, what
piece.
did you use
The
to
cod
do
piece is
that?
impressive too. On the uniform.
Yeah,
Nothing.
the little
You guys didn't see
piece
that?
of the
Or
little
just me
piece of
looking at
I
that?
saw it. Hard to miss.
yeah. I
Did
saw
you say
it.
cod piece?
Yeah, like groin protector.
Yeah.
Oh, that's is your.
It's just
that
for show.
high? No, it's not.
It's for
yours-
intimidation.
It's not that high. That's not.
Okay, I don't know
Yeah,
what's going
yeah,
on
but
over
I-
there. There's all sorts of weird proportions with those cloud striders.
You have to
Oh.
project greatness, you know?
Yeah. I mean, at first glance, you're like, huh? And you're like, oh no, it's a piece of armor. I was like, yes, finally Destiny's put in some bulge. It's like, oh no,
I just
armor.
read that Clueless in chat said if you stand by Ligari, she talks about Asha Mir trying to reach out through the Vex network into the Cloud Arc.
Interesting.
Really?
Hmm.
No
in there?
shot.
That's
Next
pretty
video.
interesting.
Asha
I like that.
That's
Where's
very
Ligari?
cool.
Oh, that guy was so annoying.
Okay, can you tell us where they are? How do we
Oh,
access this information? How long do we need to stand there? Do we need to be wearing anything? Do we need an emote? It might be a lie. Yeah. Maybe it's just maybe it's not true.
Do we need a Nezarec weapon in hand?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say a Cloud Strider, a random Cloud Strider could beat up a random Spartan. But I think
Yes.
if you're talking about Master Chief, we got a different story. Unless you're talking about Master Chief from the TV show, then he's definitely gonna lose.
You know, when you said Spartan, I was just
Yeah.
thinking of like ancient Spartans,
Same.
you know, like
Yeah,
loin. I was like,
contextually, that would be obviously what they're talking about.
That's what I thought of.
it was like
I just
Cloud
assumed
Strider would
that it was-
step on them.
That's what, yeah, that's why I was like, they have a surfboard. Hello? Okay.
Juan Melendez Jr. says, could Nezarec have been directly responsible for the nightmares from Scarlet Keep? thought that was
well.
On it.
Sort of, because we know that the pyramid ship on the moon was his ship. So, and that sort of caused the nightmares, right? So I guess indirectly linked.
Yeah,
wow. That's interesting.
Yadova says, "Would you have taken the shot when Ghost is making the link?" I mean, that would have been interesting, right?
100%. I find our Ghost to be so lacking in character. It actually is one of my pain points with Destiny.
But you should say Ghost, no more resurrects for you, right? That's it.
No more Crucible. That's how they get rid of it, TV. Yeah. That's how they get rid of it.
That's right.
What if when you shot at, like, say you did take the shot, like a normal weapon can't.
You don't have the right gun.
Yeah. What if you took the shot and it dings off the Ghost, and then it finishes and the Ghost is like, "You tried to kill me?
You shot me."
What if you just wing it though? You know, like you just hit it in the Ghost shell.
Yeah, you would have to grab the surfboard from Nimbus and fly up and do the like.
Just realized like that wouldn't destroy the Ghost.
That wouldn't have worked.
Yeah,
they literally add lore, which also got all lore heads really angry when they introduced lore with Forsaken. The only way you could kill a Ghost was with a paracausal ability, meaning that Elixir and like no one can kill us unless you have a crafted bullet like they used from the Scions that had light suppression technology.
Nimbus didn't know that. Osiris, he doesn't know that either.
Our Guardian's got to know that, right?
They're just
Our Guardian's like, I could take the shot with this ancient relic, Kavasta, but it's not gonna do jack.
You're like, okay, sure, I guess I'll,
I guess I'll pretend.
No, please don't.
It really would have been the perfect time to introduce like a strand thing in a cutscene where you like try to grapple your Ghost. Like that just would have made so much more sense.
That's true. That would have been way cooler if as he's flying away, you just like grapple and yank him back.
Yeah, just barely miss.
No.
Bad Ghost.
They would have to use the light in some way. Like a golden gun would have worked. A Nova bomb would have worked. A Titan super would have worked.
Mylan, question. Is it like Well of Radiant Warlock, where if you stand in the piss and you shoot something, you get
then it would. Then you could. If someone dropped a well,
what if
then
the
you could
light
take it
is
out.
emitting via our hands into the Kavasta? Because we're paracausal.
It's hurting my head now.
When you're next to the veil, everything is weakened. Everything.
When you're next to the veil, the Ghost ain't ghosting.
Sure, it could do.
Were you guys surprised to hear your character's voice again? It's been a while. Oh, I forgot.
3 words.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, it's like 3 words.
Yeah, I didn't
yes, I was surprised.
Yeah, I'm always like, oh, that was me.
I speak. Yeah, I like that our character showed a little initiative. Like, yes, I am kind of a BA. I've kind of done some pretty cool stuff. I can call some shots. So I did appreciate that they seemed to have our character had a little bit more confidence. And especially considering the cast of characters that our character is interacting with. So to show that level of initiative and leadership around people like Kydal, Osiris, I thought that was fitting of our character considering what we've been through.
Aang asks, kill Bone Mary, Shapes Edition, the Veil, the Pyramid Ship, or the Traveler?
Ouch.
Don't bone anything with sharp ankles.
Yeah.
So the Pyramid is out. Traveler gives good head. Nothing? No good?
With the light? How?
Traveler has a flower.
I think it's...
And it opens up in the middle.
And it... Yes. Mylan's like...
Just imagine like someone looks at, what's that on the Traveler? That looks like a Guardian dry humping the top of it.
Good for you, man.
That's what we're gonna do when we go to the raid. It's like, no me first. Get out the way. This is mine. Move out the way, Mylan. I'm going in first.
I don't know what the Veil is, so Pyramid Ship. I don't like my chances. I'm killing that. I don't, Traveler, I guess. I'm gonna either bone or marry. This is a tough
Shape
one,
edition.
honestly. I don't have any feelings about this.
Well, if the veil
objects,
if the veil connects us to the Cloud Striders big network, then you know you marry that one. Infinite life within the network.
Also, you need a veil for the wedding anyway, so
there you go.
True.
All right. So we're boning the Traveler and killing the pyramid ship.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm on board with that.
Unanimous.
Just now that the mental thought of a Guardian Tri-Hump in the top of the Traveler's head is in my brain, it shall never leave.
Make it an emote, please, Bungie.
Yes, please.
You know you want to.
Tri-humping.
Just like scaling down it with like a bit of strand, just grappling up to it.
Prepare yourself.
B says, does full release of Strand Fragments have any chance to change the narrative on Lightfall, or are the shortcomings to characters, environments, and bad writing too much to overcome?
I think it has the possibility of doing a lot because we know that there's that exotic quest that's tied to it, and seeing that it's step 1 of 7, it seems decently chunky. So, I don't know what's in there. It starts with talking to Nimbus. So,
I think a lot of the criticisms of like story comes down to the difficulties with not only a video game but also a live service video game, and it really is what you expect. And you know, Bungie has this crazy pace of release from expansions to seasons, and they've got to keep you hooked the whole time. So there's probably a lot of pressure to write storylines that link to the next thing, so you go buy the next game. And I think when that clashes with an expectation, primarily in an expansion, to sort of have some sort of start to finish conclusion and story, I think that's when you get like a lot of unhappy people. And I think that's what happened with Lightfall.
Yeah.
I'm going to just stop doing questions about the story.
Just
FYI. I mean, we've had quite a few now, and we talked about it extensively. Insane says, does anyone else feel that the campaign was generally fun to play? I'm sorry, I'm going to keep moving. Iceman says, what new weapons have surprised you the most in the new expansion? I'm really enjoying the new exotic stasis bow.
Strand SMG. Like I was genuinely like all in on using the like void with Strand, and then I got that and I was like, wait, I can make threadlings and it feeds into all these other parts of my build, and now I don't want to take it off. I want to finish the Quicksilver Catalyst, and I can't because I just want to use the SMG. It's really fun.
The Autumn Wind.
Ooh.
The Autumn Wind Crucible Pulse Rifle, Rapid Fire Frame Pulse Rifle has a juiced perk pool, and it's really good. It's really
juiced.
Okay. Juiced.
I just had Rangefinder Harmony drop on that just a second ago, and I was like,
okay. Killing Wind Rampage, and I've got about 250 kills on that one already because it's fun.
That's good. Wow. I think for me, it's... I like the bow, like you said, the exotic stasis bow. I like the fusion a lot for PvE, specifically.
What?
Yeah, I know what I thought. But I actually... They have a new Waveframe heavy grenade launcher.
Yeah, that's right.
Stasis, and I really like that in PvE. It's really fun.
That is fun, yeah.
Oh, the Strand Sniper can have Cascade on it. So it's a 72 RPM. You can get Cascade, so you can just dump some good damage. And it has like firing line and all that other stuff. So it might actually end up being all right for PvE. I have no idea, but maybe.
The seasonal Queen's Grenade launcher is basically the one everyone was grinding for the Grandmaster Nightfall last season, but it's like the same archetype and comes with the same either Cascade Point or the the light perk that everybody wanted. It's like both of those perks in that grenade launcher, and you can craft it. Explosive
My first one that dropped has Cascade Point and Shot Swap with spike grenades.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, I get Cascade Point going on a Strand Hunter, and it's just throw a grenade. It's pretty amazing.
What does Cascade Point do? Can you remind me?
Cascade Point is final blows or sustained precision hits with another weapon increase this weapon's rate of fire for a short duration.
You swap to it, and then you can go blah 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 blah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the best way to describe it. Blah, blah, blah,
it's basically the way I like to summarize is harmony, but for rate of fire. Like, you get a kill, you swap, rate of fire.
And how long do you have between getting the kill and blah 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 blah?
It says buff can be stowed for 5 seconds.
5 seconds, yeah.
But
it's only like a very minimal amount of time to use it. You have to use it as soon as you swap, but you can wait to swap for 5 seconds.
Yeah, and you also you get it with sustained precision hits. So you can just, if you're on a raid boss or whatever, you can hit the head and then just dump all the ammo immediately.
Oh, okay. So you could be doing So you could be that'd be good for like an auto loading something, and you could be like doing sniper damage, getting precisions, and then you switch to it.
Or Envious
dump
Assassin.
your grenade.
Yeah, Envious Assassin, get a ton of ammo and just dump it all.
What I want to do is get a cascade point build where you're heavy, your energy, and your kinetic are all cascade point, and you just swap between each of them and keep the cascade point proc the whole time, because it's only precision hits. So you could do that if you get the right weapons.
Yeah, as well, or if you have somebody running div.
Or that. Well, yeah, no, I think that still works, because they just fixed a bug where certain precision hits were counting towards cascade point that weren't supposed to, and that got fixed this season. But I think div still works. I
thought div was got through cleanly.
Yeah, I think so.
You got any more for us, Briar?
Yeah, Josh says, despite any opinions on the writing of the Lightfall campaign, I feel like it achieved Bungie's intention of being a bombastic action movie adventure pretty well. For each of you, what was your favorite moment from the campaign?
Ooh, it's got to be one of the cutscenes. I think the Callus one was really good. I think I laughed at the training montage one when we died and got resurrected, and Osiris is there just like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah. The Callus one where he's walking with the cup in his hand and he asks for it to be filled and he realizes nobody's going to come and fill it. That one was pretty good.
That was good.
I need to rewatch them all again.
What was your favorite part?
Look, honestly, I think the fight with Callus really grew on me, even though it was difficult. Just the being able to play around with Strand in that room and get the feeling of just swinging around was cool.
I concur. That's my favorite moment, was the Callus fight.
Yeah. Yep.
I feel like my favorite moment was actually the strike when it forced you to play it and you hear Nezarec for the first time, and I was like, "Wait, what?" My whole team started freaking out.
Yeah,
that was up there.
I think many of us were like, "God, I think that's the end of Nezarec, but I don't want it to be, because this is the character we've known for so long, and we don't know what he looks like. We don't know like how he was involved with the collapse. We don't know who he went against. So having him confirmed to be back makes me very happy.
Isn't it funny the way he like talks in that strike? It sounds kind of like similar to like Age of Ultron, whenever Ultron like becomes self-aware and he's like, where am I? What am I doing here? Like, what is this power? And that's what Nezarec sounds like when he's like, I'm in this network, but it's like he's talking it through with you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Last question of the night will be, Takarito says, if you've done the Titanfall 2 campaign, did the Strand training room feel similar or just as good as that? I would have liked a leaderboard like in the TF2 training course, even if it was with generic names and scores. I wouldn't expect a leaderboard, but it did feel good. Strand feels good. Like it is fun to use. And when they increase how often you can use it, it'll be more fun. That is a problem, I thought, is that you have so much fun using it in the campaign because it's always like all your abilities are always up. And then you get out of the campaign and start to use it and you're like, oh, there's just constant downtime on this stuff. I'm sure it'll get better once we have fragments so you can start chaining stuff.
Yeah, I thought the same thing until we started mucking around with the other fragments and aspects, and especially once you start making tangles and you start just throwing tangles to grapple on, then you pretty much always have grapple up time, and the combos are so cool to do. Like I just love throwing a tangle at someone, grappling to it, the tangle hits them, then you do a grapple melee, you make another tangle, and then you just like in this loop of just like flying around. It's I think it's actually fine. At first I was like, oh, they sort of bait you a bit because you just have so much grapple and regen in the campaign, but it just took a little bit to unlock and get used to and like build into, which I think is what these abilities should be. You should have to build into them to have a lot of grapple.
To have that kind of uptime,
yeah.
My only question is, when does Mayhem come around so that I can just swing in the Crucible all day?
This is how I get to enjoy Mayhem.
Everyone's like, we have a peace treaty. Everybody understands we're just going to be swinging. Okay, this match, we're just swinging.
All right.
Could you get an entire lobby of like players, like allies and players, and all grapple onto each other to have like a big circle? Just like,
I'm sure you can.
Yes.
You probably do it in the raid with 6 people, right?
Well, the easiest way to do that would be when Mayhem comes up to have 2 teams of 6 queue at the same time with team-based matchmaking. Have everybody on the same page.
Interesting.
That
would look so funny. Imagine if you just got loaded in, you just see like 11 guardians flying around.
We're doing this, okay?
Yeah.
All right, that was episode 237.
Didn't you say 300 earlier today?
327?
Who knows?
700.
Anyone know? Anyone know out there? Anyone know what?
Anyone?
I don't know. It's only the 8th one I've been on, so.
Episode 8.
327.
Got it again.
Thank you guys all for watching. We'll see you next week. Right before the raid, too, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be the day before raid day.
Yeah.
That's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
And next week on SideQuest, we're gonna be talking about games as well. SideQuest is happening.
That's right.
And thank you
a lot of other good games right now too.
There's so many. Everyone was like, so March, February. I'm thinking that's the best time. And even indie games are coming out. It makes me lose my mind.
Man, it drives me nuts. I see it all the time now. People are like, "There's no good games." I'm like, "What are you talking about, dude? Like, I can't even play all the stuff I want to play."
Yeah, it's impossible. It's too
literally
much
not enough time of the day.
Not enough time. Thank you for our Patreons and Twitch subs. Thank you for making the podcast possible. And we will see you soon for Destiny Lightfall Sidearm Edition. That's probably next week.
That's right. Be nice to Nimrod.
Sidearm Edition. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace.